I was always a Mets fan until I married my wife.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, June 27th, 2024. We're here for a work session. And as always, could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Matt Charters, would you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, I have a couple quick notes to go through here. On a sad note, the town of Riverhead lost a couple of matriarchs, in the town. Pat Stark, who's the former wife of former town supervisor Jim Stark. Her work in town, her charitable work that she did her whole life and the love for her town will certainly be missed. So our thoughts and prayers to her family. And Shirley Simon Smith also passed away. And she was another very charitable person, very active in the community. And these are people that really helped mold Riverhead into the place we are today. And we're going to miss them, and our thoughts and prayers to all their families. On a less depressing note, we have one well in the water district that the actual head fell off 700 feet deep in the ground. And our incredible water department staff is actually trying to retrieve this head and get it back up. But so that means we're down one well, which is a kind of big to do. So what we're asking just voluntarily for people to consider odd and even water days for water conservation. It will help take some of the pressure off the well that is down until we get it back up running again. So just voluntarily, if you could, odd and even. If your house number is an even number, you water on even days. And if it's an odd number, you water on the odd days. And again, voluntary, it's not mandatory, but we're just asking for a little assistance here because the weather has been quite warm and the water usage has been quite high. So until we get some rain to cool things off a little bit with the water district, just lay off everyday watering and maybe consider odd even, okay? All right, let's get, oh, go ahead, Bob. Yeah.
So just one note on Shirley Simon. What? Simon?
Shirley Simon Smith.
Oh,
Shirley Smith Simon.
Shirley Smith Simon.
okay. She's
Not
an
Simon.
original Griffin.
Simon.
She grew up in the Griffin
Yes.
house that was built on this
This
property. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, unless you live in a cave without electricity, last Friday, we received such tremendous news of receiving a $24.12 million grant to help with the downtown revitalization. This was at the federal level through the Department of Transportation, and the work that Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand and Congressman Lulota put in to support this bill, and it passed, and it included our $24 million is incredible. It's incredible to the downtown, and our CDA worked themselves to their bones to get this done. It's been 5 years in the making, and it finally happened, and it's going to help us tremendously with the parking garage. It's going to help us with flood mitigation on the back river, and it's also going to help with streetscaping, which is all part of the plan of the revitalization of downtown. So congratulations to the CDA, and we are ecstatic about that. So, all right, moving on to open session. We have matters surrounding possible establishment of emerging technology committee, and this is very interesting. And Bob Kern, would you take the
Sure.
lead
I'm
for
going
that?
to ask Carl Mills, Amy Angle, Jeff Seaman, Frank Mancini, Danielle, and Greg Bergman to come up. Is Greg here? Oh, yeah, there he is. And I know, Carl, you're on a tight schedule, so, let you speak first.
Is this considered the smartest group of individuals in the town of Riverhead with the technology?
So,
Can they fix our phones before they go?
I am definitely lowering the IQ, so believe me.
so Carl Mills is representing Stony Brook University, Amy Engel is representing Brookhaven National Labs, Augie, who couldn't be here, is representing Cornell at Crawford Extension and University. Jeff Seaman, who does our seeker work, and our environmental guy, and Frank Mancini, who used to work at Brookhaven National Lab, and Greg Bergman, which I think who is very amenable to being on this to see what's happening. So, Carl, I'm going to let you speak first because you are on a tight schedule.
Sure. Carl Mills, Assistant Vice President for Government Relations. I handle state and local government affairs for the university, both of our campuses on Southampton and our entire medical system. So spent a lot of time here on the East End. I'm very appreciative to be here. Just a few of the initiatives I know that we're working. Oh, we also co-manage the Brookhaven National Lab, so we have a significant oversight and input with what goes on at BNL. We have a number of joint faculty that are both at Stony Brook and at BNL, and really work in partnership on a lot of those. But just some of the things that come top of mind, we're currently building a quantum internet testbed, which would be the largest quantum internet testbed in the United States, housed at Stony Brook University in partnership with BNL. Go from New York City all the way out to Riverhead. We got grants from the federal and state government to help support that, the Governor's Long Island Investment Fund. We have the New York Climate Exchange, which is a massive project that we, as the lead applicant, and BNL was obviously involved as well, but a number of international companies, universities, really to deal with mitigating climate change on Governor's Island in New York City. But that applies across our enterprise, so coastal resiliency, workforce development, pretty much anything green, climate, jobs related is something that we're working on. We're also doing energy and battery storage, which is at our AirTech and Seawood facilities, which is our advanced energy centers on the university side. And really, if there's an area of interest that the committee has, it's likely that Stony Brook is involved in some way. But those are kind of just top of mind of some of the things that we're working on.
Thank you, Carl. Amy?
What he said.
Oh, no, you're not.
I'm Amy Engel. I'm the manager of community and environmental engagement from Brookhaven National Lab. As Carl said, we are working on a lot of things together, and I was going to mention the Climate Exchange and Quantum Network because those are relevant to this committee. We also we do a lot with not just quantum. We have our computer science initiative. We do a lot with artificial intelligence, machine learning. We have our interdisciplinary science research that we are researching batteries, battery storage, how to make them safer, more stable, longer lasting, smaller, bigger, whatever we need. So we have that expertise. We have our National Synchrotron Light Source, so that provides a lot of other research into all different things. Even though it's not particularly relevant for this committee, the light source is the facility that was used by Pfizer and Moderna when they were developing the COVID vaccine. So there's a ton of potential at the light source for whatever research is needed. And I can tap those scientists if we need presentations. We have our Center for Functional Nanomaterials, our relativistic heavy ion collider, and we have the scientists associated with those. And I don't know if you know, but we've been tapped by the federal government to develop an electron ion collider, which is, on the way and passing all of its hurdles. With regard to sustainability, we do a lot with sustainability, carbon reduction. We're very cognizant of what we can do to reduce our carbon footprint, and we have expertise in those areas as well. So, as Carl said, if we need a scientist or expertise, I can certainly tap somebody at the lab to come, and if I'm not the right person, I could get you the right person. So, thank you for having me.
When
That's
will they
awesome. Thank
split
you.
the atom that was splitted?
Not twice, but yeah, so now they want to collide more things. So they're big on colliders there.
Pretty amazing.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Seaman. I've done a lot of environmental consulting here in Riverhead, looked at a variety of projects throughout the town. Perhaps my selection on the committee is to lower the bar for the brain trust, not in the category of my colleagues over here. But I'm more than happy to take a look at
sort of the broad-based environmental implications of new technologies, what that might mean for sustainability, in order to seek that balance that we all look for both economic purposes, technology-driven job opportunities, as well as how that's going to fit in with the complexities that we all deal with here in Riverhead, with the rather multiple communities that are going to interact environmentally. Farmland preservation, open space, etc.
Thanks, John.
Hi, I'm Frank. I run the water district, and like you said, prior to this, I worked at Brookhaven Lab, and I just learned that what an incredible facility it was, and what they've done to move humanity forward now, and what they're doing now. I got to Riverhead. We didn't have a great relationship, so I've done anything we can to cultivate that relationship, because it seemed obvious to me that we have this incredible facility right next door that's looking to develop the latest technology and commercialize it. And here in Riverhead, we have a lot of land we can develop and available land. So it seemed like a good, synergistic relationship. So we want to land those technologies within the town of Riverhead and develop them so that the whole world will benefit from it.
Thank you, Frank.
And I'd just like to say, this is Bob Kern. Bob Kern is our local expert on technology and energy worldwide, because there's not a day you don't come in that Bob doesn't have another story to tell you about what they're doing in Japan or in Europe or somewhere else. And he's on top of his game. He's a very well-read person, and we appreciate the information. I think this is a great idea, Bob. I'm really excited for this.
And I'm real excited. I know when I first went to the lab, maybe as long as 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And companies like Siemens were in there, GE, and they were using the light source, and what they were doing, because it does 3D living X-rays,
Yep.
right? So they
It's the
were
brightest light in the
experimenting
world,
with
yeah.
batteries at that time. They would fully charge them, X-ray them until they died,
Yep.
and then adjust them to get longer life out of them, blah, blah, blah. And Danielle, I want to thank you for everything you've done. And I'll just say, there's one company, I'm not going to name them, that's in Riverhead. They have, I think, about 6 people under 30 years old. They all started in the 6 figures. It's a technology company. And what I'm hoping, the message that gets sent out, is that Riverhead is open to, exploring new technology, given the fact that we do have and Greg, you would know, several acres of industrial land, and I'd like to see high-paying jobs come here, and eventually, get the school involved, et cetera, et cetera. And you guys are working with robotics, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. So robotics, we all know, and I know Danielle's husband teaches robotics.
He does.
So I'm excited about this. I'm excited that you all are here and showed up, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I don't know if the board has any questions.
I'm very interested to see how this is going to pan out. And I had a meeting yesterday with a group that we've put together called the Citizens Cooperative Development Team, and we're working on ideas for EPCAL in the very early stages, and we're not quite ready for prime time, but we're not too far away from prime time with it also. And we definitely wanted to incorporate you into that committee at some point in time as a subcommittee of this committee, because we know the importance of that property and how technology and environment is important up there. So we think it would be a great mix to have these experts involved.
Yeah. And that's where I learned about pyrolization, actually, pyrolyzer, and then engage.
Oh yeah, that was another one of your words that nobody ever heard of before.
The guy, named Tristan, who came down and made a presentation to the planning department, and he's working with NYSERDA. And we have, there's so many smart people out there. I feel like, I'm as dumb as a stump, but I'll tell you what, I'm a sponge, so I like to learn. I really, again, appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Thank you for
Great
taking
group.
your time.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Bob told you you're gonna meet 3 times a week.
Yeah, I've heard this is a paid position as well.
Don't let them know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate this.
Good job, Bob.
Very exciting. Very exciting, Bob.
And Supervisor, it's worldwide and beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh yes, you're right. The beyond
Thanks.
part. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Next up, we have our consultants from BFJ. with matters surrounding comprehensive plan update. And it'll be Greg and Matt Charters and Heather Trojanowski. And I think BFJ, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be online.
Yeah, no one should be on via Zoom.
Perfect. There's Noah. Good morning, Noah.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for accommodating me virtually.
Can we raise the volume on Noah, please?
Noah, is your volume up all the way on your device?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
No, they've got to increase the volume for us.
Okay.
Try it now, Noah.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
That's better.
That's
Okay,
better,
great.
Noah.
Okay.
Okay. How do we want to do this in presentation form? We want to go through it page by page, or do we want to just go to the board members? Do they have specific
We
questions?
want to do
or-
page by page first, and then,
I think that might be a good idea.
if the board members have, you guys, if everything's
Okay.
addressed, if not, then we can go to the individual questions. I think that's probably better. How's that sound for you, Noah?
That sounds good. I'll follow along best I can.
Okay.
All right.
No, don't move the mic away from your mouth when you talk.
Okay.
So when you say you're not going to read it all, you're just going
No,
to.
we'll just go through the pages and
Right.
sort of just acknowledge. I mean, a lot of them are just really quick run-throughs, so I mean, and I'll reference the page of the comp plan, the
Thanks.
draft, so.
Okay.
The first sheet in our packet starts on page 19. There's a note there regarding Northville. Again, one of the comments we received during the review period was basically an acknowledgement of the URT terminals that are there. They are a prominent feature, obviously, when you're driving down Sound Avenue up on Sound Shore Road. So just an acknowledgement in the plan that the terminals do exist.
And a pre-existing
The pre-existing non-conforming.
Right.
Again, there were comments that, looked for analysis of like future build-out, and that's not, there's no applications for it right now. We're not looking at analyzing build-out or future expansions of URT. It's really just an acknowledgement that they are there, pre-existing non-conforming. As we move on, next page is number 28. So this is a comment that really will sort of echo several times throughout the draft chapters here, referencing the 500 unit cap, analyzing whether to lift the cap, how to address the cap. There's a number of comments going forward about how it's worded, relating to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy versus building permits. So I think this would be a worthy kind of stopping point to sort of get the board's opinion and have a discussion on that 500 unit cap, because I said it does come up
Yeah.
several
I
times.
would say the language, just say to evaluate too, doesn't tell you when to do it. It's pretty open-ended. I don't think it's a bad recommendation to look at it. It's not saying lift it, it's not saying keep it, it's not saying make it more restrictive,
I
but
think we could probably clarify and bolster the language, because a lot of people seem to think that we were gonna look at lifting the cap, and that
Yeah.
wasn't the intent of that.
No, I think the intent, at least from my perspective, was we let the 500 build-out occur.
Yep.
And then we reevaluate after that, because 500 may be it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it won't be. But to limit it one way or the other right now, I think is premature. And I think if we let the 500 happen and then we take a look at it, we have a better idea of how the 500 actually impacted everything downtown, and whether or not we need more, or whether we're just fine where we're at.
So
With the current projects though, aren't we currently over 500?
yeah, we're probably in the neighborhood of, if everything right now gets approved, we're probably in the neighborhood of like 520 to 530
that's in
the
DC1.
DC1.
Right.
and unfortunately, yeah, it's a consequence just of how it's written. It's on the 500th issue, the 500th CO, correct?
CO, yeah, which I still don't understand that to this day. That's crazy.
So I have a question. I mean, one of the things that concerns me is the fact that the over 500 that we have, there are projects that are included in that are 5 years old that haven't even started. At what point do we say, look, you're either going to start or not, because it's just, it's vapor.
I mean, we
That's-
do have a provision in our code, Bob, that speaks to abandonment of applications. I believe it's after a year if we have no correspondence or anything.
If there's no action taken on an application,
Yeah.
we can send a letter to an applicant informing them that basically you have 30 days to follow up or take action.
Yeah.
Or we can deem an application withdrawn or, incomplete, or basically a dead
Okay,
application.
so the second piece of this is, I know during talks with BFJ over the course of the last year. We did talk about, when we talk about the cap, that's rentals. We did talk about condos that could go over that 500, because that would be home ownership.
Is it specifically for rentals?
So the way it speaks to apartments on upper floors. Now,
doesn't
when you
speak
get
to
when you get to the differentiation of like apartments, condos, I mean, they're residential units. It just, when you talk about home ownership, doesn't necessarily impact. It doesn't necessarily change impacts of a residential unit. So I don't want to say it's just semantics, but whether someone's renting something or owning something doesn't necessarily change the fact that it is a dwelling unit. There will be residents and all of the sort of impacts
Right.
that come along
Yeah.
with a residential development.
And I appreciate that, but I think part of the thinking in the conversations was the fact that it's a lot less expensive to gain equity by buying a condo, right, than it is renting and having no equity. So, and I know that that's what was part of the conversation, so I would like to continue that part of the conversation. Because again, we need places where, if it's a studio condo and it's gonna cost 200,000, fantastic, as opposed to a home, and I think we were looking the other day at the cost of condos in general at 1,400 square feet. We're close to what? They're close
Like
to 600.
500,000 or 600,000.
Yeah. So, and we're not giving hospital workers, teachers, police the opportunity to gain equity. That's my concern.
I don't think the condos should be considered within that 500 count. Like I say, it is definitely a major stepping stone, and for most people today, I look at my kids growing up, I mean, that is the stepping stone to future home ownership. It's kind of, you get nothing back with, you rent after rent after rent.
I agree with that. I don't think that the condos should be considered in the 500 unit cap.
All right, so
I just want to add also, I just wanted to ask, basically ask a question. On the existing buildings, the historic builds, there's also apartments that are in the comp plan they're talking about adding. Are they part of that 500 unit cap?
Well, that's something we offered, I think, in here to consider
Right.
apartments on upper floors.
Yeah, like an
Like
adaptive
in
reuse.
existing
Right.
building, like a
That
couple,
would not be
a couple of the
considered part
two-store.
of
Well, so again, this all it's really just relating to that 500 unit, and again, to the supervisor's point.
I need you to speak up closer.
To the supervisor's point about, sort of getting to that mark, that 500 unit, again, whether it's rentals, whether it's ownership units, getting to that sort of already pre-established mark and seeing if that sort of revitalization and the economic development comes
see where
behind
we're
it.
at.
'Cause that, as I understand it, that's, the driver, and that's the goal that we want to see, is that the thought is you're going to have people that living downtown, you'll have foot traffic,
Get the back
and
focus.
behind that you will get like a wave of, we'll get good restaurants, good uses downtown. Again, whether they're ownership units or rentals, I don't think necessarily it's a differentiation ownership. It does not change the goals of what we
I don't
see
want to
downtown.
conjoin the two, because there's a very distinct difference between renting and ownership. And not giving people the ability to get equity, I think is a mistake, number one. Number two, can you tell me out of the 527 that are proposed, how many are there right now?
I don't have the numbers.
Well, we got
immediately, but
116 in Riverview Lofts. We have, what, 40?
36 in 331 East Main Street. 45 at Peconic Crossing.
Okay.
I believe you got.
There's a chart in the plan about it.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a chart, correct? Yes. Further on.
My point is, it's probably under 300.
I believe so.
And this is where I get concerned about, we have this cap that could it may not be filled for 3, 4, or 5 years. At the way these projects are going. And I don't consider a condo a unit. I'd like to differentiate between home ownership and rental.
Okay, so for constructed at Summerwind, we have 52, Woolworth, there's 19, Peconic Crossing, there's 45, Riverview Lofts, which Greg mentioned before, is 116, and then at 331, there are 36.
So what is that approximately? I didn't add them up. Okay, you want me to, give me the numbers on it?
You ready?
No.
I think in general concept that also the fear of the overabundance of apartments downtown was that we don't have it, currently, as of right now, we speak, we don't have the necessary infrastructure, meaning the parking abilities, but granted, we've just received a $24 million grant. When we put a parking garage into place and we upgrade things downstairs, downtown, we're building the infrastructure that's probably needed to support, these apartments and condominium units. I'm not a proponent of more apartments, rentals, but I do support the whole idea of having condominiums down there. I think it is a great step. It's the beginning of ownership. It is ownership.
And
But I
downsizing.
think, what's that?
And
downsizing, right?
It
The
works,
reverse.
it works in
Yes.
both directions. I would just, caution the board to be aware, in terms of fair housing, it's difficult to say what kind of housing and ownership. You can't really dictate unless it's incentive based. It's very, very tricky to whether you can say it has to be ownership or it has to be a rental.
Wait, what do you mean? If somebody,
It can't be a requirement.
my point is this, if somebody comes in and wants to build condos, what's the problem with that? They want to build a building with
There's
condos.
not, I just don't know that you can require that it has to be a condo.
We can't, but we strongly encourage
Correct.
the developers coming in.
Correct, and that's
One
something
of
we
the
could add
first
in here, yeah.
conversations I know the CDA
Yeah,
has with them.
absolutely.
And we do too, when they
Yeah.
like planning pre-submission meetings, we want home
It
ownership.
can be a strong requirement, a strong recommendation. I
Right,
think is
right.
fair.
Are there incentives?
So that's what's considered in the plan, whether, we were considering things for ownership purposes, that's later on. To go.
Yeah, I want them considered up front, because again, the fact is, when you look at yes, this proposed 500 and something, it's under 300 right now. It's been under 300 for years. And I don't want to sit here 5 years from now or 6 years from now and find out we haven't even reached this unit cap. And I would like units, I would like rentals separated from condos when we talk about units.
For
So it's
inclusion
not-
within the cap. You want them
Not for
separated.
inclusion, no, I want the
Yeah,
condos,
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
they can exceed the cap, condos. Because
Can I jump in?
the difference is home ownership versus rental units.
Go ahead, Noah.
I just wanted to clarify just the way that the plan is written now. I think Bob is kind of speaking to what you're, I think it's consistent with what you're saying. We have
That's what I thought.
essentially two recommendations. One recommendation is to look at potentially allowing for properties to exceed the cap for home ownership alone. Granted, that's something that I think the town still needs to, look at the nuances. There are a lot of nuances of how that would be done. So that's one recommendation. And another recommendation is, aside from that, for all developments, once this 500 unit kind of wave finishes, to reevaluate the 500 unit cap, generally speaking, for all residential, to see what the appropriate number is, or if you don't need a number, just, or whether, maybe you don't want to change it, but it should be reevaluated at that time. And I think that's the language that we have in the document now.
Yeah, I guess, no, what I'm really concerned about is that reevaluating it after it's full does no good for home ownership, period. And correct me if I'm wrong, it just doesn't. I mean, we've been sitting here for 5 years with this like ghost number of 537, of which there's less than 300, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. If that's a decision for the town board to make, when do you want to reevaluate it? We just,
Right now.
that's certainly something that we could change, but something that we heard from the, public comments, there was some reticence, but also on the contrary, a lot of the plans that were done, previously to our work have talked about the need to increase residential options in the downtown area, and that the 500 unit cap was a limiting factor. So a lot of the studies done recommended that be reconsidered, but we did hear reticence from the community, and so it really is a town board decision ultimately on how we phrase it in the document. I don't think it's the change itself, it's not, it really is a future action, so it's just kind of a recommendation for the policy, for the town board to consider. I don't think it's dramatically substantive, so it really is for you to decide.
I'm confused.
I think that legal has to look at it to see, to your point, of whether you're allowed to say, we want this to be a condo or or
Well,
not.
that was my point. You can make we can make a recommendation that that's what we want. It just can't be required.
Okay.
And I would add, but the language that we're talking about here is when we want to evaluate it, which I think what the supervisor's point was, once it's built out, prior to build out, or just leave the language the way it is.
Prior to build out, because.
It's going to be a future action, so that's the point of this recommendation.
Yeah, I don't want to wait, we're good at waiting years and years and years and getting nowhere.
Do you want, Bob, would you think about on a yearly basis, review it?
Oh, I
That
want the
way-
whole thing reviewed on a yearly basis, because, to sit on something that's gonna last 20 years, look what
Right.
it's done. It's just, to me, it's from town boards that didn't look at zoning constantly and say, we need to make a change now. That's,
Annually, I think that's
Maybe
fair.
annually? That
yeah,
way?
absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
How do we do best with recommendations? I firmly believe that the town of Riverhead has done more than its share of affordable housing on the east end of Long Island.
You would be correct.
And
Yes.
I would really like to, how do we encourage more when these apartments come in, that they are in fact market rate homes? Because that's what's needed. We need people with the ability to spend money downtown, to visit those restaurants, to go to those stores and those shops, and to spend money downtown.
Yeah, again, it's going to be a recommendation, but I don't know that you could require it.
Well, the numbers to get us up to the 500 now are all are market rate
Yes.
apartments.
So, another,
I just don't know if there's something we can do to have, I understand you're just saying right now, how do we hold firm to that all of a sudden that a developer doesn't come in and go, well, it's easy just to sign off on other homes.
and to Ken's point, he's absolutely correct, because if the market changes and a developer's built a 5-story building, and they're gonna say, look, it's gonna sit vacant here, and I'm gonna use it as a tax write-up, or I'm gonna have to drop the rent, So that can definitely possibly happen. We were in a meeting with another developer, and there's something that I'd like you guys to look into, where they're doing something in Colorado where when you rent, you're actually getting equity. There's
Like a rent to own.
Yes.
well, it's not it's not a rent to own per se, and I'm not, that could be, you look into that model, but no, what they're doing is they're renting apartments and they're giving it equity. So if you're there for 5 years, at the end of that 5 years, you're getting equity. I don't know that percentage, but it does two things. One is it gives you equity. Two, it makes you take care of the apartment so you get your full equity. Talk to Dawn about that.
Yeah, can you send me whatever it is? I'd be curious to
Typically,
to
when
read
someone's
it.
renting, if they pay security, doesn't it go into an escrow account that?
It's more than.
I was thinking like your
that-
deposit back, right?
Yeah,
In
and
a
I mean,
sense,
that's
interest
a
on your
reason,
deposit back.
that's a reason
This-
for people to take care of properties.
That's
is
what
to
they-
get
This
the-
program Bob's talking about, I believe I read about it, and it is, you do get some of that money back when you decide to leave that rental. Some of your rent actually is going towards equity, like, it's almost like a savings account for you,
Like a
to
CD
help
or
you to be
something,
able
yeah.
to save money while renting, and then be able to hopefully use a down payment out of that at some point in time.
I'd like to explore all options available to, anybody that must reside here. And
Can I just add one other point? I know it's going ahead, but it's still back on this 500-unit cap, and it was something Bob mentioned about if they say they're market rate and then they can't sell them and then they reduce it. I'm going way ahead, but where the hospital is looking to put their own apartment buildings, I don't think we should allow them to do that on that property. Those professionals should be going to the market rate apartments here in downtown that we're building. That's why we wanted them built. We wanted market rate for young professionals to come buy into these. That's exactly the kind of resident we want to go into downtown. I don't think that we should give them their own campus with their own community of shopping and such. I know this is why we wanted these apartments down here in downtown. So I'm just moving ahead,
That's fine.
but
It's a
I'm
fair point.
asking that as, in terms of that 500-unit cap and that their market rate, I just wanted those two things to come together in downtown.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not against the hospital being able to do that, because you're talking about, you have to compare apples to apples, because a lower end paying job in the hospital is never gonna afford a market rate apartment. But if they do a lower rate rental or residence for their workers, some of their lower paid workers would have a place to stay. Your more professional, certified or doctors, nurses, PAs, whatever, obviously make a good bit more money, and they could maybe afford the market rate, where not all the workers in the hospital make that big
So then would
salary.
you put a cap on
A
the
certain income
financial
level,
cap
yes.
in income towards who could live on the
Yes.
hospital grounds?
I
and who
agree,
can't?
because I don't think that the
Well, I don't
comp
think we
plan
can
says
do that, but that's something we can have in a
Right.
discussion with
Yeah.
the hospital about what they're looking to do.
Because I think in the comp plan, they're referring to their young professionals using that
Mm-hmm.
campus. So I would agree with Bob and Ken that, no, we put a financial cap if you're gonna allow apartments over there, but they have to be a certain lower income to utilize them.
Got it. Okay.
Got anything else exciting, guys?
Not on that page.
So, I was gonna say,
So
it's gonna be a
it's
long
the
day.
second one.
So just to be clear, for the 500 unit cap, it sounded like the big change was to, instead of say that it should be evaluated, once projects are done, it should be evaluated annually.
Yes, I would agree.
Evaluate, Mr. Lance.
Annually.
Annually
Oh,
evaluated.
yeah, and even every 6 months. I mean, the market keeps changing with interest rates.
You wanna do it daily?
No, I mean,
I mean, projects take time to build out, and
Correct.
you will have
Yeah.
plenty of warning, I think, on it.
Yearly's plenty good.
Okay.
Moving on to the next comment, there were a couple of notes on page 33. This has to do with residential population projections. There were 2 notes in here that they can update it to make it consistent with the DGEIS on both of those. So I think that's something that BFJ will take care of, making those 2 numbers consistent.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Page number 42, so again, this was a comment that sort of comes up multiple times, is short-term rentals, Airbnbs.
There's a lot of opposition.
A lot of opposition.
I'm against it. I
Totally
don't
against
want to
it.
lower the number of days we have now because it just creates a nightmare and just an enforcement problem alone. What it would create with the number of Airbnbs that we know are out there illegally, if you will. There's no way we could control it, I don't think.
And it becomes a quality of life issue. You have a lot of people that have lived long-term up on the bluffs and Wading River and so forth, and then when an Airbnb comes in next door and it's Friday night, Saturday night, summer parties and so forth, it becomes a quality of life with parking, noise, music.
And I mean, not just
and
quality of
maintenance.
life, yeah, but it also, when you look at Riverhead, like try going on Zillow and looking for a house in Riverhead, prices are all, as it is all over Long Island. When you start opening these things up to Airbnbs, they sort of become a commercialized value where it's no longer a family buying that as a single family residence. You get people who are purchasing these properties
And
basically
purchasing
at
them more for
basically at
unlisted
a
prices
commercial
if
value, which,
the young people can't afford it, and
correct.
they're paying above market rate for the house, so.
So
And we do have hotels
Kinda common
here.
We do have hotels.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm opposed to Airbnbs as well.
So I think we're just looking to omit the last sentence in that third paragraph. I mean, everything else before that is basically saying that
This
the
is why.
Airbnbs are sort of a strain on
Yeah.
the housing
Right.
stock in Riverhead. So I think
it's important to say.
Yeah, it's important to say that, but we can get rid of that last sentence.
Agreed.
I think so.
I'm gonna continue looking at 2-week rentals as the minimum, for me, anyway.
Okay.
Because there are people that rent weekly and,
Going on to the next page, 44, again, references short-term rentals, so I think we've,
We can clean that up.
yeah. That. Moving on, page 46, again, this touches on the 500 unit cap. So you'll see these things pop up, so we want to look at the cap on an annual basis, reassess.
So, yeah, so this one references once development of the pipeline is complete, and we can make reference to the annual look.
so what, just from you guys, from the planning staff, what's your take on the fact that we've had several projects now that the applications were put in probably 3, maybe even 4 years ago that are included in that cap? At what point is it like, hey guys, put a shovel in the ground, or, we're moving to the next developer who's ready to go?
Or better yet, that we change the wording that it's not the first 500 to get a CO, because to me, that just
It
makes no
doesn't work,
sense.
because then you almost have a rush to get all these
Right.
applications in, even if it's a, pie-in-the-sky application that no one's ever gonna build, with the intent that they're gonna achieve,
Yeah, but it
achieve that
counts,
CO,
right.
but it counts towards our total.
Right.
We can consider it.
But, yeah, definitely, that's a really good point. That should be looked at.
building permit makes a little bit more sense, I would say.
Yes,
Or
correct.
Or site plan approval.
Yes.
Either one.
But
Yeah,
then,
even, I mean, building permit, because there's applications, I mean, for example, I think the Zenith building on McDermott was approved, I want to say like in the
10 or 15 years ago.
late 2000s. Again, they got final site plan approval, never drew a building permit.
But
So I mean, yeah.
Building permits can be renewed every year, and there's no, like,
Expiration or limit on the number of
yeah, there's no
times you
limit on the number of times you can renew a building permit.
Yeah. I just think when someone pulls a building permit and they've paid that, you know, $100,000, whatever the building permit fee is, I think it kind of lends more degree that they're actually gonna construct it rather than getting an approval and just letting it expire, you know, getting an approval to maybe drive up the price and then sell the property to somebody else, you know.
well, that's my
With an approval
thing. Do you
price, yeah.
hold it, do you keep renewing year after year, right? Knowing that the price is going up, so
To
it
sell to
really
the
becomes
developer.
an investment
Yeah.
and not the idea to actually build, you know?
So I think it sort of just echoes back to, we need to address how that is worded in the code, and I think that the plan can make recommendations, and again, we can discuss and come to an answer as to how we want to word it.
Okay.
I mean, it could possibly be, or maybe it couldn't, but I'll throw it out there. If we use the state definition for being vested in a project,
Yeah.
that could be a limit or timeline that we could use to make that determination.
Okay.
Because once it's vested, then it's there. That would give them maybe the shot at still being under the 500. If your project's not vested, you know, and the 500 come up, sorry, we're there.
Okay.
My only concern with vested is that people have there might be a state definition, but people might have different interpretations, and there have been legal challenges about who's vested and when, whether it's does it mean shovel in the ground, or does it mean applications and investment in lawyers and so on. There could be a gray area.
Put the mic, you moved the mic away from your mouth.
Put the microphone in your mouth.
No,
I'm just concerned that even with the state's definition, there might still be some gray area
Wiggly.
with
We have
vested.
a whole more firm discussion,
Yeah.
what exactly is vesting?
yeah.
Yeah, and in general, from a planning perspective, we do look at like, I
hard
don't
deadline.
like interpretations.
Yeah.
Like I very much like
So-
clarity.
Well,
So that's why
we
if
could
can,
perform our own definition of it to
Yeah.
use for our guidelines for the 500 count.
Yeah, okay.
That's true.
That's an easy look.
Define it.
Right, define it specifically.
all right. So moving on to page now 65.
Can
Again,
I just go
Hang
back
on,
to?
you passed 60.
Yeah, we also,
Step back.
I also wanted to go back to 46, is talking about the accessory dwelling units and increasing the number of those and not requiring the 3-year CO.
Wait, not
So-
requiring what, I'm sorry.
The 3-year wait before you could.
so,
Oh, yeah, I agree.
The 3-year wait does come up later on, and I mean that is something we will discuss.
Okay, because I just wanted to state that I'm opposed to adding these units, and it's right here on page 46. And I don't know if you want to address it here, or,
So, I mean, we can and we will. So, I mean, just in general, like accessory dwelling units, accessory apartments. I mean, we've had our accessory apartment code has been on the books, I believe, now for 16 years.
Yep.
And I don't believe we've seen a
that
extreme
under 500?
proliferation of these units. I mean, there was a feel like when you go back and you look at some of the comments on when that was adopted, there was very much a concern that it was just that every property in the town was going to pop up and have an accessory apartment, and I mean that hasn't necessarily materialized.
well, there's a great deal of effort to have that really be increased. There are groups and organizations that are pushing for that
So there's
strongly.
a cap on accessory
It's 250, and I think the town board is able to go up to 500.
That's a lot.
I'd have to look
Yeah.
at the code, but I think
we have
we're,
less than 100.
the building department, I'd have to look, Sue Edwards had a, like a spreadsheet because she handled all of the accessory apartments. I think we were around 100. And keep in mind, like, if a property gets sold and it's no longer owner occupied, it's no longer eligible for an accessory apartment, so it
yeah.
needs to be removed. There is a mechanism for people to transfer, so if you buy a house with an accessory apartment, you have to refill out all of your, affidavits, provide like that, the information that you are residing in either the house or the apartment, and there is a fee to transfer it. But there have been a few that have actually been removed because they weren't owner occupied.
And
Well,
I
I'm
would say-
just concerned over, because there was a great deal of correspondence from the community and people that
Yes.
also spoke about not wanting to lower the CO. threshold of 3 year, they didn't want to see that go away, and they don't want to add to this. And, or also change the dimensions. They wanted to change, to increase from the 300 SF to a maximum of 650 and 40% of
The
dwelling.
40% would remain no matter
Right,
what.
but
So-
there's real concern about that, and I don't want to see those increase. And I just wanted to be on record about that.
That's how it is now, right? Yeah.
There's efforts to try to extend that higher. And I just don't want to do that. The town should consider eliminating the 650 square foot max and limit the size of accessory units to
So
40%.
It's already,
Consider increasing it.
It's already limited to 40% now.
I know, there's, the language in here, you consider eliminating those
Not the
restrictions.
Not the
40%,
40.
just the 650
Just,
square.
yeah,
Right.
just to go up to 650.
I mean, we didn't give like a new number, but
Yeah.
obviously we'd like to hear what the board has to say about
Right.
that, because it was something that came up quite
Oh,
a
yeah.
bit during the.
That's why I
the
just didn't want
comment
to skip
period.
over it to the
Yeah.
next thing. I thought we should talk
Yeah,
about
I think it comes up later on in
Right.
the document, but we could talk about it now, that's fine.
So I mean, so globally speaking, when you look at Long Island and its housing stock and the general growth of the housing stock on Long Island, we're not doing enough to keep up to retain young people, make something, and I don't want to say affordable in terms of like what is a certain percentage of AMI, but just something that a young person can afford. So I mean, Long Island in general, the single family zoning, like Long Island built suburbia and it's kind of modeled all over the country, and it's just now. Single family zoning is not doing anything to allow young people to stay on Long Island. I mean, who can afford a house for $700,000 now? So I mean, having more affordable options as opposed to a single family residence or a $3,400 a month apartment unit, there needs to be some sort of effort to retain people. I mean, that's and that's
It also allows people
regional.
to age in place too. I mean,
Yeah.
you have an older person who owns
That-
a home and they have
yes.
a family member who might come live with them. The older person could live in the apartment or stay in the main house. I mean, the limiting factor on this is it has to be owner occupied, one of either the house or the unit, and that's not recommended to change.
I'm just concerned that it may develop into a homeowner turning into a landlord. Again, we don't have enough code enforcement to make sure that this does not become an apartment complex in your home.
Well, they're limited, it's
I
limited
know,
to
one
one bedroom,
bedroom,
and I
but-
think they get a rental permit as
They
well.
do.
I know,
And it's
but I mean-
inspected by
In
code,
addition
yeah.
to the accessory apartment permit that's up for inspection.
I guess I'm
every
just
5
concerned,
years.
I'm sorry, Heather, I
That's
didn't mean
okay.
to speak over you, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, they get a rental permit from code enforcement on top of the accessory apartment permit from the building department. And once the accessory apartment permit is issued, it's a 3-year inspection, and then after that, it's 5 years. Every 5 years, they have to renew and get an inspection with the building department on top of their code inspection.
I
too.
guess I'm just concerned that we don't have a lot of code enforcement officers to make sure these aren't turning into illegal apartment complexes.
Yep.
That's really what I'm most concerned about. If we had more code enforcement,
We made a commitment last year when we changed the inspections to a yearly basis, that we would utilize that money, we raised the permit fees, and we would be utilizing that money to expand the code enforcement department. I think we're on the track of doing that.
Correct.
And so that we want them to get in that apartment every year to see if smoke detectors have been removed,
sure they
if
stay, yeah.
kitchens have been built and so
And
on and so
I will
forth.
remind the board that this is just a recommendation that's going to require future action, so.
okay. All right.
Unfortunately, we have some bad players, but there's also some families
Yeah.
that legitimately need
Yeah.
accessory apartments. You have somebody in your family, your father passes away and your mom's left at home. She can't live by herself. She's not ready for a nursing home. Come live with us, Mom. Well, where's Mom going to go? Into the accessory apartment. We have to provide for the good people.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, I realize, I think that the code does have to step up on this and, just keep track of it, but.
I do understand people's concern about getting rid of the 3-year for the principal structure. I don't have an issue with getting rid of it for the accessory structures, because there are plenty of people that want to build, like an in-law apartment, but they
Right.
want to have their own space, and they basically have to build the garage first, wait 3 years, and then, I've seen
Right.
it from working in the building department, and some people, they're very, very patient, and they're straightforward when they come in to build the garage, saying, this is what I plan on doing with it, but I understand I have to wait, so for some people,
Right.
it's not always cost
Right,
effective.
it could be,
Maybe we should clarify that if we want to leave that in, it should be on the principal structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
To be what, was that?
On the the 3-year limit should be on the principal structure, because what Heather's saying is someone will come in and build a garage, but then they have to wait 3 years for the CO on the garage to be.
Meanwhile,
to
they're
be
already
right for
following
an
all of the
apartment.
provisions, it's owner occupied, you know,
Yeah.
their house was built in the 1980s, it has a CO.
It's
and
unnecessarily.
I want to, the information, I listened to you, Greg, and I listened to you, Denise, and, you know, the data
The data
shows
doesn't lie,
that, you know, people are not, this is not gonna proliferate,
No,
but
they're
at
not
the same.
knocking down the doors
you
to the
know,
building.
But, and you're saying there are organizations out there, but the fact is that they have to be owner occupied?
Have to be,
Yes, and you have to provide.
And
proof.
I think I know what you're talking about, those organizations, you just can't drop people
Yeah,
in that are not part of the family,
right.
right? So, and with that, I'm definitely in favor of dumping that 3-year thing, because I think it's arbitrary.
Can I jump in?
Given the
Can I jump in?
statistics.
No one wants to just jump in.
I just wanted to mention on page 207 in the plan, under accessory dwelling units, we talk about this, and we talk about that, currently, the code mandates applicants to have a certificate of occupancy for an accessory building for a duration of 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. Originally intended to permit accessory units in existing buildings while discouraging new developments, this provision poses a burden on applicants. Potential remedy could involve modifying the requirement to apply the 3-year CO period to the principal building rather than the accessory building.
Right, so that's
Right,
in
that's
there.
So if your house has been there
Right.
for more than 3 years, like, why penalize a person who's building a garage to put an accessory
Right,
apartment in?
agreed.
I guess I just
I
keep going
agree.
back to, we're
Enforcement.
building, yeah, and not just that, but we're building all these apartments for people, we want them to maybe go in those apartments and not let the homeowner profit. I'd like to see the town.
Yeah, I think
It's
we need.
because it's a lot less money, when you think about it, if you're putting your mother-in-law there, you don't
Oh,
wanna
no,
put
I
her in an
understand.
apartment.
Your
or-
mother-in-law's not paying rent.
No.
I'm
No,
not.
but
think
even
we
if
probably
your
need
kid is
both
going to
in terms of-
college,
yeah.
Yeah,
graduates college,
there's a
and can't
balance.
afford something.
Or any, and it's like the people just need a place to live. I mean, people
Yeah,
do not
that's the
hesitate.
issue.
Like, people are living in illegal basement apartments, that are not inspected, that are not safe. Like people just need a place to live.
They can't
I mean,
afford
that's-
it.
And that's,
Yeah, that's why I favor just eliminating the 3 years altogether. I
Yeah.
don't see a
Me
mad
too.
rush of people coming in, oh, let's build houses now in Riverhead because we can build an ADU right with it when we build it. We'll rent that out, but not with the guidelines that are included. You have to be owner occupied.
owner occupied and limited to 1 bedrooms. I mean, again,
Yeah, that's it.
our underlying residential densities, like the 1 acre, 2 acre zones, you're not changing that. You're essentially adding a 1 bedroom accessory dwelling unit to it.
Can I just ask, how do we ensure that this does not become illegal Airbnbs?
The same way we do now. I mean, it's an enforcement thing with code, so they're inspecting every year. I mean, it's complaint driven, really, just like everything with code enforcement. So if we got a complaint that you think someone's coming in and out of there every week, code's gonna go down there and do an inspection and probably ask to see the lease, I assume.
You know,
or-
and to the
You don't have
Airbnb
one.
thing,
Yeah, or a rental permit, yeah.
I'm gonna address the Airbnb thing. Probably most people don't know this. There's over 400 in Riverhead. And how many get complaints? And I'm not for, or I'm not, has nothing to do whether I'm for or against it. I'm just saying, you get hardly any complaints. So I don't have those same concerns. I'm for dropping the 3 years, to your point, Greg.
So, I mean, I think we have a consensus
yeah.
pretty much at the 3-year. We want to.
I would like to eliminate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You notice Noah has his mic near his mouth,
Yeah.
but then when he talks, he moves it away.
All right. So
Doing my best.
65?
65, I think we're up to.
Let's just, I know it's not in there, but I'm going to our own notes. Let's
Okay.
just pause for a minute at page 60 if we can, in the manual.
I don't have. I've
I'll
just
just
got.
kinda-
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, something I've been looking at for a while, so I just wrote my own notes out so I don't mess anything up. But New York's, we're basically talking about the FAR ratio. So New York State set a goal of clean energy future for zero emissions electricity systems with renewable energy to power homes, government offices, schools, places of work, and so forth. The New York State goal for 2030 is to have 10,000 megawatts. So when we're talking about the whole renewable energy, the state is advocating for community solar, which would be unlike traditional solar, Some families can't put it on individual rooftops, doesn't fit or conform to their property, or don't have the ability, if they're renting homes and things like that, so community solar benefits them. When we talk about the FAR ratio, the current code right now permits a FAR of 0.4 in the industrial A and C. I understand when we build, I'm not interested in increasing the FAR ratio for like industrial warehouses and things like that, where they say, okay, I have my footprint, they can buy TDRs and they can go higher. But when you talk about like solar projects, solar energy renewal projects, they can't go higher. You can't stack solar on top of each other and go up. So I really would like to see that, I would like to really see that it does not apply to energy renewable projects.
So our commercial solar code has its own set of dimensional regulations. I believe it's 75%.
It is.
So basically, if you have a piece of property where your fencing is, cannot, the actual improvements, the roadways, I think it's 75% lot coverage, which is what all of the commercial solar farms that we've seen out in the Calverton area were holding to that standard, and I think those projects turned out pretty well with that existing. So, I mean, floor area is just for buildings. It has nothing to do with solar panels or,
But the way I'm reading it here, it's a reduced allowable density of industrial development to, and now you want to go down from 0.4 to 0.25 with the potential to go up to 0.3 through TDR. So you're going to be going up to where it is currently.
Yep.
Correct.
But I want to make sure that all, solar, battery, any
It's not
energy
captured by that
renewable
now.
captures are not going to be subject to this. because
No,
It's already
they don't have parking spaces. They
Yeah.
don't have driveways.
No, they're not. They're no.
Yeah, they're
They should
already
be able
not.
to go further.
There's no floor area ratio for a solar farm.
Same thing with
There's no
batteries,
building.
there's not.
There's no, floor area ratio.
Where
just-
is that clarified?
So
like,
that's,
in terms of
so
that?
they're under the, supplementary, they each have their own supplementary section in the code, because they're their own regulations, and
It's in the commercial energy production section, and it spells out its own dimensional regulations. But floor area is defined as
for building.
the total amount of building area in relation to the total lot size. It has there's no restriction. It does not correlate to the size of renewable energy project.
Both batteries and storage are 75%.
Yes.
So,
Solar.
So with that, right, when we reduce the FAR to 0.4, right, and I know we've had numerous discussions on this, the more I thought about it, if I own a piece of industrial land, right, and you're now taking away some value of that land that I own, and that's what happened in the 2003 comp plan when they took farmland from 1 acre zoning to 2 acre zoning. They cut the value of that land in half. I'm not so sure that I'd be real happy if I own industrial land to take it that's now allowable at 0.4 and only go to 0.3.
So the 0.4, in the 2003 comp plan, the industrial C zoning district was originally entitled industrial recreational zone. The 2003 comp plan recommended a low FAR of 0.2. So that was what was originally recommended in 2003.
But it went to 0.4.
Somehow it went to 0.4. I cannot find any
we tried to
record.
find the minutes,
The town
and
board
apparently
minutes.
the recording
So
stopped.
I cannot explain. When we talk about this is not a God-given. He didn't say you can build 0.4. I mean, these are established by the recommendations of the comp plan.
Understood.
So I can't explain how the 0.4 even got there. And
It makes more sense to go to 0.2. I mean, it's in line with the
more in line with the health department
which is-
standards,
And I mean,
which would allow
the
about.
plan is recommending 0.25.
Right.
So,
yeah, health department's about 17%.
Correct.
I'd be more apt if it went from 0.25 to 0.35 as opposed to, it's just shy of 0.4, and you just set the building back, that you have ways of setting buildings back, but I get concerned when we start taking away people's rights, that's all.
I agree with Bob, and I think that we can go up a little bit more on the FAR ratio, but also on page 60, it really doesn't, it's very vague in terms about coverage and making sure that even if somebody purchases TDRs and they go higher, well, then all of a sudden the structures are now visible, and now we'll look and.
Well, they
now
still
we're
have to
gonna-
meet, I mean,
Setbacks.
obviously, we're gonna have to
we have
amend
setbacks,
the
but
code,
you can still,
and then we're
the higher a
recommending,
building is, the more you're gonna see it from the
we're
distance.
recommending a pyramid law, so it's gotta be set back a certain amount of feet, so the visual impact is not as much. So the higher you go, the further it has to be set back.
Right. The purpose of these ratios was to create more TDRs to
Correct.
preserve more land.
So that's part of it. We don't wanna, cut the bottom of our TDR program out
but
by
I-
going too high,
Right,
then they're
but
not gonna purchase as many
Here's
TDRs.
what I had a conversation, I've been speaking with, in terms of the TDRs, the developers and the Farm Bureau. And I can tell you now that the Farm Bureau is real concerned about this because they don't want, they really want to sell TDRs, right? And they don't want anything that's going to get in the way of selling TDRs. Now, we may think, oh, somebody's going to be willing to go ahead and extend their building by 0.5 if they buy TDRs. What if the TDRs don't, we have to sit with them and really look at how much space are you getting for those TDRs? Right now, they're saying 3,500 square feet for
Correct.
one, right? But when we get down to the TDRs, we need to have the developers in the room and the TDR committee in the room to really come up with the numbers. I know we all want it to
I
work.
feel like we've done that several times throughout the process, and I mean,
I know, but
I,
you know what,
and
the point-
as
the plan-
people,
and
you're
the plan speaks to-
digesting it every day, excuse me 1 second. They're digesting it over time, and this is a conversation I had last week, and I had another one with developers last night. But that's, because, again, you guys are on this all the time, but
Can I jump in again? I
Go
just
for it.
wanted to mention
Only
also
if you
that
put your mic
that's
to your
also
mouth.
addressed by the ratios that we've talked about. So, we wanted to find something that's more equitable and where we can have a better market for both buyers and sellers of TDR.
Yeah.
So that if, one TDR doesn't equal necessarily, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what we recommended, but, maybe it's not 3,000 square feet of extra commercial space, maybe it's 5,000 or more. I don't have the numbers in front
I'd
of me.
rather see the
But we
TDR
recommended
become more
kind of
valuable.
maybe a little bit more of a gain
no, that's
for the
fine.
use
I'm not
of
trying to
TDRs.
land somewhere.
I think the point was that the plan recommends these ratios. They might not work depending on how the market changes. So the plan also recommends that we revisit those ratios in order to keep the TDR valuable.
Perfect.
Right,
Okay.
it did say that.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
So it's not a,
It's a
too
fluid.
bad you're out.
Yeah, no, it's
No, we
a
still
very
have to,
fluid.
we still have to amend the code and draft
the
the codes from
TDR.
these recommendations.
Yeah.
And it
And
also
so-
said you could use the TDRs for, change the formula for sewer or for other infrastructure, the values that.
Well, there were ways
different-
that how to measure the TDR. We've had discussions with BFJ just about how is it based on impacts or is it based on sanitary flows from whatever those
And these
TDRs.
are things that are going to require a lot of future thought and analysis when we come to drafting
amendment.
and
Yep.
adopting the code amendments.
This is your guiding document to get you there, essentially.
Right, but I'm still in favor of starting this at, instead of 0.25, starting it at a 0.3 and going to 0.3.
Bob, would you consider making the square footage increase for the TDR to be more with a lower FAR than with the TDR is more valuable? So, and it works for the developer too, so then the bonus they're getting per TDR is more. Rather than just saying, we're gonna lower we're gonna, let you have a bigger building or more floor area as of right. Keep it low, but then make the value of the TDR more, say maybe it's 5,000.
Because
and
the
then you-
idea is to
10,000.
enhance
Yeah.
the TDR.
No, I
Because
understand.
the program isn't working the way that it is right now.
I understand.
So
I-
we need something.
Correct.
Then you need to talk, for me, I need to speak with, somebody who's developing buildings of
That's
this
fine,
size.
yeah.
And, I just include, I'm sorry, not me, but include them in the conversation, so where it's amortized in and it makes sense, that's all.
Got it.
So where
I-
can we make can we agree to at least make a note of something in it that these FAR ratios do not include, stuff within solar and
It
battery
doesn't,
and energy storage?
it doesn't now.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can-
I
But
mean,
it's not clear, show me where does it say that?
It's in the-
Because-
Pull up the
But that's what I'm
commercial
not
solar
saying.
energy production.
yeah, so it's in the, I'll read it, it's already in our code. I'll read it to you now.
Okay, but if we're adopting this, are we going in a different direction?
No.
Like, 'cause
I don't think it's gonna
not-
change
It
anything.
doesn't
because they have
affect-
its own-
it doesn't
it has its
affect
own
you, Ken.
There's
regulations,
no
yeah.
floor area for solar farms.
Yeah.
There is none. There's no building.
And battery,
Same thing.
There's no. There's,
That's why each of those has
It's
its
its own
own separate and
supplementary
distinct
regulations,
code.
because it's not the same as like building a building.
I just wanted to
Why
mention
not write it in there?
one-
Why are we hesitant to put it in there?
We can add a sentence if like the.
I think Ms. Prudenti wants to say something.
Okay, yeah, this is something I've been talking to the deputy town attorney about a lot, and like, I wanna know that we can go into these community projects that the state is asking for, and that we're not limiting. We have EPCAL, and we have the potential to do projects up there, and we're.
So I think it's very easy to add a qualifying sentence in the master plan update. And when you go through the code and you go through the different zones that it's permitted, it does not flag you or necessarily direct you to supplementary regs. So either it should be combined in the one code where it's permitted, calling out that the FAR doesn't apply, rather than referring not to the zoning district and its dimensional table, but now to a separate supplementary code.
Without that.
You should
you
clean
read
that
the
up,
comp
but,
plan, and then
but I don't know
you're-
why you couldn't have a clarification in the update to the master plan regarding.
Because otherwise, a developing company reads this comprehensive plan, they look at it and they walk away, and they go, there's nothing we can do here. We can't, you need that bar ratio on projects like solar.
It doesn't have.
So, I mean, lot coverage for solar, it says, the lot coverage shall include the total square footage of the perimeter of all the solar panels, inclusive of interior space between panels, in addition to driveways and service roads, and accessory equipment, buildings, or structures. Further down in the commercial energy code, it says the maximum lot coverage shall be 75%. So, I mean, it's very clearly defined in the code.
And yet, in the dimensional table, and I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me, I think it's in possibly industrial C. You'll see floor area ratio with TDRs, 0.4. And then there's a little footnote 14, which says, well, if it's battery energy,
Correct.
refer to the battery energy
Yeah.
code. But it doesn't include, if it's solar, go to the solar energy code,
I think
and
we
if you're
can-
industrial A,
I mean, if
you're
why
not
are
gonna
we-
have
that's
that
what-
same
It seems
footnote.
like, why are we hiding
It's a
it so far
cleanup.
down the road? Let's put it right up
We
front
should
in
clean
the
up the
plan.
current code, that way.
That's easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could just put, if it's as simple as just putting something in the plan that says,
It's a footnote.
yeah.
I mean, in the code. we can just-
Yeah, and I would just say energy in general, because you don't know what's coming down the pike. I mean, outdoor, whatever, how,
I
you
don't think
guys.
it's unreasonable to just add a sentence to clarify that. I think it's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
And then
Clarity.
on the other things, then also potentially with like solar, battery powered energy, I would like to see something more from the fire department side of things, that we incorporate community benefit component into these things,
So
where they're
it's-
going to have to participate, there'll be finances available if necessary, if somebody comes in with a large project, and we have to cover costs of training, cover equipment, personnel, gas detectors, anything, infrared devices, that a community benefit component, I think, should be part of that. It protects the local fire departments from the cost of training and certain equipment. So I'd like to be some type of component added to that.
As part of the New York State Fire Working Safety Group, when they studied the battery fires, they recommended changes to the New York State Fire Code that include all those things as part of the fire code. Obviously, those changes haven't been made yet, but that's the intention of the state, to require trainings, pay for equipment to the municipality where these things are cited.
So I just want to, make sure that, again, that it's referenced within this. And then I think we need to be a little bit more specific on coverage. Like when we drive down Edwards Avenue now, I mean, you didn't see this a little bit. Sometimes cars go off the road and take trees out, and we lose things, that they have that continuing maintenance that they have to restore and preserve the buffer areas of these projects, to make sure that you continue that they're not a visible, so to speak, eyesore in any way, however.
I think we do have language in the plan that does address that. I don't know where offhand, but
It's in
but
60,
we,
but it's
we
not
do
very
have.
specific about what they got
It's
to
in
do.
other
I'm
places
looking
too.
for a little bit more depth to make sure that there's proper buffers in place,
Okay.
and they're maintained for the duration of the project.
Can I just go back to the question about the number for FAR? I think the numbers were a result
Hold on, Noah's
of
trying to
conversation.
Hold on, Noah,
So-
just,
Sorry,
can you start again? I apologize.
Oh, no, it's okay. Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. I just wanted to go back to the numbers for FAR, just to explain those numbers came out of, many, many conversations with the steering committee, with the public, stakeholders, etc. That those numbers were kind of important numbers because they were the basis of a lot of the analysis that we did in the generic environmental impact statement. So if you change those numbers, that will be a dramatic change to the work that we have to do to update those documents. It doesn't mean that you can't change them in the future if you decide to adopt zoning at a different number. I think the intent is clearly established that you want to reduce FAR and provide some increase with TDRs. And if you change it at a later point, you can do that and kind of modify the analysis as appropriate when you adopt the zoning. But I just wanted to you to understand the ramifications of being that specific at this point. If you're not sure, I just want you to kind of understand
no, I got
the
it.
kind of context.
Yeah, and I think Matt's explanation of just giving more TDR, a lot more square footage for one TDR, and again, we'll
Covers
put
it.
down
Something
that.
that have to be considered at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt's still sticking in that same area
Got it.
where Ken was just talking. If you look at, still in economic development, 3.7, it talks about codifying downtown Riverhead pattern book. I don't want to just skip over this to continue to advance its recommendations. It talks about now adopting the pattern book should be codified.
Yes.
To give it more. Well, the only problem is that the pattern book does, currently we allow 5-story buildings, right? With 80% lot coverage, and you can even apply for 100%. The pattern book says that the pattern book recommends a FAR of 3.5 with a height of only 4 stories. So if we do that, we're going to have buildings all out of code, right? If we have 5-story building. So I don't know if we should just gloss over codifying that now, because while it says recommends following it, this recommendation in this comp plan says codify it.
Yeah, it's
So-
it's in a weird, the pattern book's in a weird limbo right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
It was adopted by the town board, but it was never implemented into the code.
I don't think it's what we want to do. That's just my
I
recommendation.
totally agree. I do
I
not
would not-
want, it limits us,
Right.
if somebody wants a 5th story and they're gonna buy TDRs to get it, get it.
Codify it, you're going to make it law, so, I mean.
Yeah, I don't want it, and the pattern book to me is just,
I mean, we've really been working, the last couple of projects, 203, 213,
All
a
pattern
lot of
book
these
compliant.
projects have been really incorporating and taking that pattern book to heart. 203, 213, they stepped back both their 4th and their 5th floor.
Right.
426 West Main
That's
Street,
fine.
they've
Yeah, I
incorporated a lot of those design elements.
I
but-
agree, but I don't know if we want to codify it. And it's what this comprehensive plan is saying
Yeah.
we should do.
I've never agreed with the 100% building. That was the one thing I had that I didn't like in the
think
pattern
there's-
book.
yeah,
But it should have been capped at 80%.
so, yeah.
Well, I mean, that could be, so that's a provision, I believe it requires a special permit from the town board, and I think it's just within the public parking district in the DC1 where those two overlap, needs a special permit from the town board. So, I mean, you could eliminate that.
Control that as.
Yeah, I
a
mean,
board.
you could eliminate that now if you wanted to.
But,
That's important.
yeah, and the
Right.
thing is with the 5 stories, pattern book recommends 4 stories, right? So
Yeah.
if we adopt that, we're stuck with a 4-story
The
building.
recommendation is that
100%.
it should be codified.
Yeah, it's
So I mean,
relevant.
whether or
Yeah, I
not
don't-
you
Whether-
decide to move forward with that
I
recommendation.
think we're doing fine the way it is, that people are using the pattern book, the setbacks. Are you okay with that? I mean, they're setting back
I
the
mean,
4th story and the
The
5th
buil-
story.
the buildings have gotten, we have one building downtown, the first large one that went up that, didn't really sit well with a lot of people.
Which
I
one
think
is that?
The,
Somewhat.
McDermott, the Gallo.
Yeah,
the-
look, because the town
So-
board at the time got a hold of it and destroyed it.
So I think
You know?
subsequent projects, I believe we've very much learned aesthetically more pleasing, we've incorporated those
We
setbacks.
get good design out of the pattern book. Whether the pattern book
Right.
itself needs to be tweaked, I think that's
So
a.
just use the design
that's-
elements.
that's-
Maybe
guess-
just take away the
valuable
words
thing.
codify it and said,
Yes.
should be utilized as a
Yes.
tool.
Utilize the design elements,
agree. I just
I
thought-
mean,
I
The
would-
original design of what
Yeah.
McDermott was supposed to look like as opposed to what it looks like today is
Yeah.
not the same.
It's it's 180-degree different, the original design.
I think you could do both.
Yes.
The pattern book was a recommendation. When the
Right.
town board adopted it, they adopted the recommendations of the pattern book. When you put it to code, over time, we've had several drafts come to work sessions, public meetings, work with business advisory, and we made a lot of changes. So even in its current state, it's not identical, but it's pretty close. And some of the elements, I think, the town board would want to have for their downtown.
Yes.
The massing, the height of the first floor, the design of
setback
the
on the floor.
windows.
Yes.
There's a lot of things I think you would want. So
So
I
if you
agree.
just take out the
If
codified
town
part.
board, it was very clear the town board really did not want 100% lot coverage. And as to the 5 stories, the town board always gave an indication it was willing to work with that and maybe do the, quote, cupcake design, where you set back, the 5th story is not visible from the road.
Wedding cake.
The wedding,
All right.
wedding
Wedding
cake,
Wedding
the wedding cake.
I'm saying-
Sorry, wedding.
Right.
Cupcakes get bigger.
So-
Wait, Ms. Prudenti, Anne Marie, I just wanted to say that if you codify it, now you're taking all
Well,
those other
I would-
variations
You can
out.
codify
You can
certain
codify
elements of it.
certain elements, and I think that's what it says, because
It just-
like Anne Marie said, it was adopting the recommendations. Your recommendations could change for whatever you're gonna codify.
Just take out
Which-
the words codify and just say the pattern book should be used as a guiding document
Yes.
for
I would-
developers. And you don't need to put the word codify.
I'd caution, because then it's almost useless.
It's not, it's
You
used
get
as a
more, I
guiding
mean, it's a
You
recommendation.
can
at that
codify
point. It's like,
guidelines.
Please.
But that's
You
what it
can
is.
codify written guidelines in the code. We have it in
I was
numerous
gonna say,
other
we have
sections.
supplementary design guidelines in almost every zoning use
They
district.
need to be enforceable if, for certain instances,
Correct.
if that's what you want to do. If it's a
Yes.
recommendation that you've adopted, how do we
Guidelines.
hold people to that?
I'm sorry, yeah.
If you've got a stubborn developer who
They say,
absolutely wants to go forward with
Thank you
their
for sharing your
design,
pattern
you know.
book, but I'm
Right.
gonna do this building anyway.
Right.
Okay.
What irks me is the fact that the 100% build out, that being recommended from the beginning,
Yeah.
told me that who's ever doing it was totally wrong, didn't understand the town, when other pattern books in other towns, when they're developing downtowns, do just the opposite. They go to 80%. The reason is they believe that their downtown is going to thrive and they want wider sidewalks. This is somebody who said, no, we're going to go 100%. This isn't really going to work. You don't need wider sidewalks. But anyway.
So we could say study and quantify. I think there's opportunity to dress up the language there.
Yeah, we can figure something out and get back to
Yeah,
you.
to study the pattern book and,
Only if you put
consider
your mic-
future codification.
You gotta get on with the mic.
All right,
I'm not sure where we
so
left.
I kind of.
65.
65. Oh, so again,
They're short-term
short-term
rentals.
rentals,
Yeah,
I feel like we've
we're
addressed
taking
That'll omit.
that. We don't want to beat a dead horse with a bush.
Keeps going back, let's talk about it all over again.
With a bush.
95.
95, there was a note that the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program, the name changed on that. That's a very quick fix.
Yep, a good fix.
98 talks about the Peconic River Community Zoning Districts, about CRC and PRC, really relating to infrastructure being in place before any development in those districts come in. PRC is along West Main Street. We've got the Peconic River. Obviously, unless there's sewer infrastructure, you're not going to see any real development happen down
And
there.
like with PRC, you'd have to align with all of the DEC regulations,
Correct.
WSRR, wetlands.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to have those townhouses on the water side.
Yeah, which
No,
all of
absolutely.
this,
You wouldn't have that.
all of this recommends, retreating
Right.
from the riverfront.
Because some
to-
people in their comments were concerned you're putting them on the water. No, they'd be on the other side.
Exactly what
I mean, you would, if someone were to come in today with any development along the riverfront, we would never approve something right down, that wouldn't happen. You need DEC permits, site plan, the PRC zoning district has a 50% open space requirement, so you would never see a development right on the riverfront.
Right.
It would be closer to West Main Street. You would never develop down by the riverfront.
Until we get the county off our sewer line and we can expand westward bound on West Main Street.
That's true.
All right,
Thank you.
99, all right.
Agritourism resort.
Agritourism resort.
Okay. I'm just gonna open up with this and state that we have hashed this around back and forth for a long time. We shelved it for a bit. It was brought back up because I had the understanding that farmers were now in favor of it. But I have to tell you, I met Monday night, along with Councilwoman Waskey with the Long Island Farm Bureau, and the farmers are not on board with this whatsoever. There were approximately 20 farmers in the room, and not a one of them supported this as is. Their concern is they want this to mimic the agriculture law, Ag and Markets Law 301, with no exceptions. They feel they're being restricted on what they can do, whether it's vertical farming or whatever, and nobody's knocking down the door for vertical farming. And I think vertical farming, in my opinion, is blown way out of proportion, and it's never really gonna be here. I know there is somebody dabbling with it now, but it's not economically viable. So I have stated publicly many times, I support what the farmers support, and the farmers do not support this, so I cannot support this.
Are we talking about agritourism resort or vertical farming?
Agritourism resort, where it includes the restrictions of what the farmer can do.
Well, so that's the
They
that's
feel
the
restricted.
specifics of the code that we
Right.
had drafted, discussed, had those restrictions in there. When you look at just the language that's in here, it doesn't get into the nuances of
Correct.
what they can and
It says
can't
agritourism
do. It
resort
really
uses
just more
could
talks about the
be
overarching
supported.
concept of it. And I
That's
mean,
a
you know,
preservation tool, yeah.
Right, they weren't against the hotel, they were against
The
the
code.
covenant.
Restrictions, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Nobody spoke out against the resort part of it, I don't believe, I don't
No,
think
I
anybody
actually
did.
asked if they were
Yeah,
opposed
nobody
to
said
it, and
That's
Right.
not our issue,
When they
that's
wrote-
not our real concern.
When Rob Carpenter wrote the letter, he had said he was for the agritourism, that's true, but not the restrictions.
And the only
So for-
restrictions are vertical farming, which I think we all spoke about openly on this board, that we didn't want to see these type of large structures on Sound Avenue.
Would
Now,
say
is there another way to do it or mitigate it or put it inside such as?
so
like-
let's
Can
talk
I
about
just say-
vertical
Other
farming has its own
decorative-
section, so
Yeah.
we'll get to that,
Can I
but let's
just say
just stick to.
something, one quick thing? The person who's building the hotel, who's going to lease to a farmer, has the ability to say, I don't want vertical farming,
Yeah, but
I
he doesn't
want
control
corn."
what happens on the property on either side of that property, so,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
this nightmare about vertical farming, whoever created this nightmare should really do research on it. To the supervisor's point, one, it's not gonna proliferate. It's been around for over 20 years, hasn't proliferated anywhere. Most of them have gone out of business. So who's ever spreading this stuff about vertical farming should do their research and let me know who it is, and I'll send them to the right people.
So
I
let's,
think that we should
let's just.
address that when we get to the
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
bring
part
this, so
on vertical
Okay.
farming.
just to the
just
section
the
on
comp
page
plan, not
99,
the
talking about
proposed-
agritourism resort.
Yeah, I
Does
think it's
not
fine.
speak into the nuances,
love
it
it.
just speaks generally to the concept of a agritourism resort.
Fantastic.
As a
with-
preservation
Doing this,
tool,
Yep.
so
It
I'm-
doesn't, like, that's for code revision, that's for
Correct.
any draft.
Correct.
for
My
further
only
discussion.
problem with it is I think the minimum acreage should be lessened because, I mean, we're just identifying 100-acre parcels. I'm happy if the minimum is
I mean,
70.
Well, but
That's specific to the code,
limits
though. I
the
think-
location, the number and location of where these things could go.
Yeah, that was the idea.
To
We
keep
just
it.
want to hash out because
Right,
there
it's
was
a
a lot of
start.
opposition during the comp plan hearing.
Okay.
As far
I-
as whether
I'm-
or not this
I'm fine.
section is going to stay in as a recommendation in the comp plan.
I would like it to stay.
I would like this to stay,
All right.
but we have to, we have to address.
The nuts and bolts
We'll
of
work
the
with the
code
code
will come
revision.
out
That's what I'm
as the
saying.
code goes.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
All right. Page 101. Couple of notes here relating to vertical farming on agricultural soils, visual impacts. I mean, vertical farming is a relatively new, well, for us.
To us, Bob.
Yes, for you,
it's
I know
new.
you, very worldly, but for us, it's sort of the concept, and there is very much a fear associated with it. That said, I will fully agree with what Councilman Kern said a couple of meetings ago. We went and visited a vertical farm that is in an existing potato barn. You cannot see it. Nobody has issue with that. It's sort of and the what if and what could be, like, sort of like legislating by fear of an unknown.
So then in the agritourism legislation that we've talked about, you can then just find a way to address it, that vertical farming will have to be captured in a particular entity or method.
Yeah, that would have to come,
Enclosed
that would
structures,
come through
So
that individual
not
code.
stacked
Yeah.
storage
So
containers.
the language in the draft says, concerns about vertical farming include the visual impact of these structures. The town should consider clear guidance for the total size, setbacks, landscaping, etc., to minimize the visual impacts of these structures. I mean, I think that's
Pretty
a,
strong recommendation.
that's a good
Yeah.
recommendation. I mean,
Limit the size.
you can look at, there's
limit
examples of vertical farming containers that are architecturally enhanced, they have building materials on them, they're screened, you know.
They look like barns.
Or they're in barns, yeah.
And I think we should just, I know it says it in the draft that it should not be put on lands where development rights are sold. And I think,
That you're gonna need to check with Ag and Marcus, and you're gonna need to check with Chapter 8 of Suffolk County, because it's farming. And that's what you're gonna need to check with that.
And the ag and market law says that vertical
They
farming
have,
is
yeah.
allowed
It's
in
farming.
the state of New York.
So New York State Ag and Markets Law, we have a current application before farmland on a preserved piece of property. New York State Ag and Markets says it is a type, they're very careful with their language, it is a type of agricultural production, but they will defer to the entity who preserved the development rights
Correct.
and the purpose and the language that was used when they preserved the land. New York State Ag and Markets Law makes it clear they're not going to come over the top, and it's the written document, the purpose of preservation, that will dictate. So it's really important, kind of, for the town board to, it is coming up now, and vertical farming is very expensive. However, the amount of grant opportunities that are out there are extraordinary. The application that we have at Farmland, he received over $3 million of grant money for this project. So while it is expensive, and we have yet to see the influx, the grant opportunities are out there.
Can I just ask one question, Emery? So vertical farming is a type of agricultural production, right? As I heard you just say. And isn't it currently north of 25A on Sound Avenue, or not 25A rather, north of Sound Avenue in RB 80, that does not allow for agricultural production?
It allows
it allows
production,
production, doesn't
not
allow
farm
farm
operations.
operations.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the catch. Okay.
And those that Greg referred to, I mean, I don't know if they're on preserved property or not, but it is a big decision for the town to make.
Can I
And it's
ask
limiting the
a
amount
question,
of
Anne Marie?
area that they're allowed to use for the vertical farming.
So, should I outline for the town board what farmland?
You want to
Can I ask another question
Doing over
also?
there,
Just-
Emery?
Well, I think Noah's got a question, I think, for Anne Marie.
I just wanted to know, with the ag and markets law, we can't necessarily override, they're allowed to conduct vertical farming, but my understanding is that the town still controls zoning and can regulate buildings.
Correct.
And you can control the size or, allowance for, a structure. So you could say that, for one, vertical farming buildings should be limited to the existing FAR and setbacks of a principal building. That's one thing you should be able to say. And another is, I think you can say within the zoning code, if a property if the development rights have been extinguished, then there's no more FAR for buildings. Would that be correct or not correct?
That's the decision, for the town board, really. All the preserved properties have deeded development rights. There isn't one property this town has preserved that doesn't have prime agricultural soils, doesn't recite the fact that you preserved it because it has prime agricultural soils. It also recites to general municipal law 247, which is open space, agricultural vistas, unique environmental qualities, quote, agricultural soils. So anyway, I'll make it really quick because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but Councilwoman Waskey and I have been working with the Farmland Committee, and what's his first name, Ron McGann? Ryan McGann located a piece of preserved farmland with the assistance of Rob Carpenter, the old Rex Farr property, for a vertical farm. And McGann got all kinds of grant monies for it. So the Farmland Committee has struggled with it because there's a lot of pressure. Oh, we should allow vertical farming. So I'll just outline, their recommendations are, they're recommending the footprint of the vertical structure shall not exceed 2% of lot coverage. The vertical agricultural production shall include a portion of hybrid vertical farming. That's wherein a part of it is grown vertically, because vertical farming is controlled.
There's no sun, there's
Yeah.
no soil.
It's controlled environment farming without the use of soil. That's all it is, without the use of soil. So the second request they have, it must include a hybrid portion of farming where you take the controlled environment farming and transplant it into the ag soils.
On the same property?
Same property. The vertical farm must be situated with minimum front yard setbacks of 1,000 feet, and all other setbacks shall meet twice the minimum required rear and side yard. The vertical farm shall be located and configured in such a way to protect and provide open space views of agriculture from all external roadways and minimize visual and potential stormwater impacts to its adjacent residential uses. Maximum height of proposed structures shall not exceed 33.5. Code allows for 35, so they wanted to kind of bring it down a little from the max to under the max. And the structures shall be designed in such a manner as to minimize and mask industrial container and foster typical agricultural barn structure. Prohibition to locate any additional structures located on the property for the purpose of or related to the vertical farm operation. The proposed vertical structures may not be used for cultivation of marijuana, cannabis, or hemp, except and limited to 2% of the total area of the vertical structures could be used for research and development. And access and means of ingress and egress to the vertical farm shall be by single curb cut and single farm road. So they put together all of these things so it wouldn't look like an industrial use on a farm lot.
So I think, I mean,
Why?
I have one question. Who preserved the rights? Was it Riverhead Town or was it Suffolk County?
Riverhead Town.
No, okay. So, and you say that, and I'm going to say this. You're familiar with this, Chapter 8 of Suffolk County law?
Very.
All right, so you
Very.
know what the lot coverage is when they preserve land?
Absolutely.
What is it?
Their coverage differs. If you have greenhouse structures, you could go to 40. However, local zoning trumps.
Emery, I don't
the
disagree
town
with
of
you.
Riverhead is 15%. And even if an application came into the county of Suffolk and the county approved it, guess what happens, Bob? That application comes to the town of Riverhead because
And we're at
local
15
zoning trumps.
Emery, I'm with you. I just
Okay.
want to make sure you understand that. So, because
but
I worked on this for a long
when
time.
you read that, so.
Bob, I worked on
So So
Chapter
so-
8 of the Suffolk County Charter
Okay.
for the last 17
Okay,
years.
so
So I'm
here's my
fully versed.
Here's my question to you, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm not here to dispute, okay?
Yes.
My question to you is, so when a project comes to Riverhead where the county has preserved the land, and this is for now and for future, okay? Because, all right, whether it's hydroponics or whatever the hell it is, all right? Because this Frankenstein vertical farming thing to me is just a lot of BS. But here's my question to you. So if the county preserved land on a farm in Riverhead, we allow 15% lot coverage. And you're telling me the farmland wants to reduce that to 2%? The farmland.
farmland
No,
doesn't
no,
want
no,
to.
no,
Who
no, no.
does?
To be crystal
Oh, I'm
clear,
sorry, who does?
the vertical,
Vertical
the
farm.
high tower portion would be limited to 2. The rest of the property, absolutely farmed. Could you have additional farm structures? Absolutely, but
Okay,
not
that's-
vertical.
Yeah, I'm definitely not, I think it's ridiculous. I'm not in favor of it, but I totally agree with you because most of these vertical
I-
farms, they do sustain themselves on grants. And there's not enough grant money to make these things proliferate all over the
But
place.
I
Well,
have to
it was
say,
the farmland, they
sorry.
struggled with this, and that's why I'm sharing it with the board. Because the parcel was preserved for its prime agricultural soils. So,
I
They're-
think what you wrote, and I'm gonna commend Councilwoman Waskey for working with the Farm Bureau, because I think that actually bridges the major gap, I think, in some of the concerns between, you know, the agritourism bill and the farming community, that I think if you implement something of that and you coincide those bills together, you may just bridge that gap of the concern of the farming, but, okay, you allow it, but with you know, the restrictions put forth that explain how it's gonna be built, how it's constructed. That basically, when you read that, that tells me, guess what? Nobody's stacking up multiple containers on, you don't have this major eyesore going down. And it also tells me that you're gonna preserve more than likely the frontage of that, or the agricultural aesthetic view of it. So I think you put that forth along with the agritourism bill, and now you've bridged a major gap, and maybe we can bring everybody together on it.
All we can do is try.
I thank you for all of your work.
And the plan doesn't, like, the plan literally, we're just talking about, you know, keeping this passage in there. We're not talking about codifying any 2%. That's not in the plan right now. So
Yeah.
are we okay with the language in here
I mean, it's-
as it exists for vertical
It's in
farming?
the same tenor as what
Yeah.
they recommend.
Screen, I'm all for screening. That's about it.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
So I just, before we go on, there was comments, questions about agrivoltaics in there.
On that same page?
Yeah, so it just talks about, number 2, principally, in addition, the town board could provide flexibility for agrivoltaic projects which provide for dual use and production of vegetables or other crops. The approach allows for the prioritization of a site's continued agricultural use, as a project may be designed to maximize both renewable energy production and crop yields.
This is talking about an increase from the 110% maximum, and it talks about giving some flexibility for the town board to allow for some additional solar use in addition to what they need for their own use, but not necessarily turning it into a commercial operation, but some flexibility.
I'm fine with it.
All right.
You're not gonna see much of it. If you see anything, I mean, it's really for cattle and sheep and stuff.
All right, so we're moving on. Got a
I
bunch
wish
of
somebody would do it.
I think the next note is on page 195. Again,
Can we just go back to page 183?
Sure can.
Because it just pertains to my earlier conversation where in 1.7, it says, revise solar regulations and incentives to ensure they are compatible with surroundings, and then it says reducing allowable coverage. I'd like that to be removed, because that's exactly talking about what we said before against
It's
it.
in the plan.
You said 183 in the plan.
Page 183, yeah. And I mean, we talked about it, so we all agree you're gonna clarify it, but then further down the road, you go, we're gonna reduce the allowable coverage.
That's a good
I think it
catch.
says consider.
yeah, I mean, I've worked on both of the large,
Yes.
solar farm applications. I mean, I have no problems with the current solar code as it is, so I mean, if we wanna strike that.
Strike
so,
out reducing allowable
coverage, but keep in
Keep the
requiring additional buffers and landscaping.
Definitely want the buffers there, and I want them to be firm buffers, that, I wanna make sure that they're maintained, but.
I'm on board with that. Is the rest of the board okay with?
Oh, yeah.
We can strike that. So no, you got that on page 183 in
Yeah.
section 1.7. We're gonna strike reducing allowable coverage.
No response from Rich
He was diligently writing, so he's got it.
No, you got that, right?
I got it.
Do we have anything
Thanks.
else before we go to 195?
Again, 190, it says.
What about on page 185, 4.4? This is reduce waste, promotion circular economy, waste management practices. 4.5, regions exploring, including newer technologies such as anaerobic digesters. I don't support that. I don't know if the
I
board,
absolutely support it.
I don't know if the board wants to keep
I
that in
think
there.
the recommendation is that Riverhead should continue to monitor evolving waste processing technologies and regional solutions.
Which is kind of a little bit what we touched on today with your emerging technologies
Yeah.
committee.
Yep.
I don't think it gives a strong recommendation of
No, it doesn't say.
do this
Put-
or do
yeah.
that. Just consider all these technologies to
Should
reduce
just continue monitoring
impacts.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We keep producing garbage. We will need to find ways to
Different
address
ways.
that. So again, I think that's just a pretty open-ended
Okay.
recommendation to explore alternative methods. Are we good to move on to 195 again, which 500 unit cap? This says it would be reasonable for the town to reassess the cap once development in the pipeline is complete, given its significant demand for development and the continued need to meet other housing, economic, community goals.
There's the charter school is the first note.
Right.
Industrial zones, which we already, the board
Taking that
already
out.
agreed to strike.
Yep.
Go ahead, Greg, sorry.
Again, so the 500 unit cap, reassessing it, I think we've heard from the board, we want to kind of sort of take a look at that on an annual basis.
So, that's a question on the charter schools. We're not allowing an industrial zone, so then are we gonna keep ending up in situations where they wanna go by residential, like on Sound Avenue?
They're already permitted in that zone.
Yeah,
special permit.
By special permit. So maybe we should make industrial zone by special permit. Should there be a zone we identify that works out well? So we have some flexibility there. Why are we gonna box ourselves in if they, find a spot that works?
Well, I think because a lot of the residents of the town came forward and said that the industrial areas help us economically. So they don't want the charter school to be there because they would not be helping us with our taxes.
And I don't disagree with them on that. I don't disagree with the ones that didn't want it by their home. So where do they end up?
I mean, there's several zoning
5
districts
zones
in
that
town
they're
that do
allowed in.
permit it.
By special permit, yes, so
Right.
you consider it.
Either at school, there's several districts that either as of right or by special permit. And again, in the APZ, private schools are allowed by special permit. Again, there may be a more appropriate location in the APZ. The APZ is our largest by far zoning district in terms of just land area, so there may be a more appropriate location within that zoning district.
So good to strike it from industrial?
I would do it by special permit.
Strike it out.
If they want us, that's just me.
I say it's right.
I think that's what right now we're saying that it would be allowed by special permit, but I think my recollection at the public hearing was, I think the public they were told that it was going to be removed.
Yeah.
Yep, and then when we do something that's industrial land, the public is gonna come out against it, so, okay, anyway.
That's
What
true.
about the
We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it.
assisted living?
Oh, assisted living is still in there. Assisted living on.
By special permit in any district.
In any district.
Where are you?
That's still in number 1 on page 195. Do we want to leave assisted living in?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And this is in
Again, it's
addition
more
to the
flexible.
overlay.
Yeah, so this is in this,
You
yeah.
know,
All right. Moving on, we're getting close to the end here. All right, again, so on page 199, there's a lot of notes here relating to, I mean, I feel like this touches on short-term rentals, which I feel like we've addressed.
Yep.
Vertical farming. Vertical farming should be a permitted use.
What are you gonna do with short-term rentals before you go private? I just, where it says here, on the other hand, allowing short-term rentals can be a boost in Spain, I
So we would
don't
take that out.
believe in that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's,
think we
that's just, but so just generally speaking throughout the document, you want to keep the 28 day
Yes.
minimum. You're
Yeah.
generally not in favor of the
Yes.
short-term.
With one exception.
One exception.
Good, that's fine.
You can eliminate it and then just write, however, Councilman Kern disagrees.
I mean, I've said this 100 times, I'm a hypocrite, because I use Airbnbs all over the place, and not necessarily for a week, sometimes for a long weekend.
Yep,
And I
me
think
too.
they're
And it's-
fantastic, I just don't want them in my backyard.
It's great for
you know,
tourism.
in our town, so,
I have them in my neighborhood, and every weekend I see different people walking.
yeah.
We pay a lot of taxes,
Right.
you know.
Takes away from the stability and protective feeling you have in your neighborhood. Transient people coming and going.
I think it fits in different communities. I just don't think we have that community to sustain it. It's different if I'm going down, and, you know, and I'm going down to Vero Beach, and I tend to be on the community. That's where they're designed. They're tourist communities. I don't, you know.
For that,
Yeah.
for that use. Or, Bob, we could just ban marriages, because these seem to be bachelorette and bachelor parties that are creating most of the problems, so if we just ban marriages in the town of Riverhead.
Well, I think we've done a good job with the noise code, and, you know, we've done some good jobs with code to really clamp down on who's ever, you know, and it's gonna take a while, but
Well, it's gonna
we've done a
take more,
good
and we
job.
know we gotta add more
Yeah.
code
Yeah.
enforcement officers also,
Yep.
so.
And again, we have hotels here, and by allowing a shorter term rental, that's hurting our hotels.
Correct.
I just want to point out that banning marriages would be a substantive change for the GEIS. That would definitely qualify.
come on, Noah, figure something out.
The next one on vertical farming is consistent.
Yeah, vertical farming in industrial zones, it's saying it should be permitted there, which, again,
Yeah.
I think we, on the staff end, we agree with that and support that. Again, whether it's allowed vertical farming on farmland, development rights land intact.
Yep. And then number one, the concerns about visual impacts, that's pretty much what
Right.
we've said, how to
Yep.
address it.
Renewable energy, again, touches on the 110% threshold and, you know, being able to power your farm by renewable energy. I think we're good on there. Moving on, got 201.
Goes back to-
I think that 201, I think that's just a hangover from,
From last night.
no. I think that's
From
that's
199?
continued from page 199, so that just continues.
203, or is this?
203 is the next one.
TDRs.
203 is about the sending areas and receiving areas.
So,
Areas in RA 80 north of Sound are currently only designated as receiving, meaning that property owners can buy development rights from the APZ and take them into the RA 80, but they cannot sell development rights. Now, there are significant large tracts of land in the RA 80 zoning district.
I think they should be able to sell development rights, to your point, just from what I've seen with, you know, what we've seen in pre-planning, what people want to do on the north side of Sound Avenue.
and also like RB 80 isn't either, it's not a sending or receiving right now, so like the draft plan recommends to make it a sending area. Again, acknowledging that there are large tracts of farmland there.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had some comments about the RA 80 being both sending and receiving during the public hearing, so we're just trying to get the boards you're thinking about.
It's a receiving district. I think there is a little confusion about what it's a receiving district for. It's a receiving district for basically single-family homes to be on 1 acre instead of 2 acre zones, right?
Correct.
And so it's not a receiving district for a tremendous amount of development. The density is still very low, and that came out of, from my understanding, was kind of a compromise at some point when the area was made a little bit less dense, but allowing property owners to recapture some of that value that may have been lost. This was done a while ago, so I can kind of speculate.
So I think what Noah's referring to is when in 2004, when we rezoned, we went from 1 acre up to the 2 acre zoning. The TDR is still calculated at 1 TDR per 1 acre. So while the base allowable development in terms of residential density on those properties was essentially cut in half, the value in a TDR was kept at 1 acre.
And I think some people took issue with it being both a sending and a receiving area. We've looked through it. It's not an issue. We don't see it as an issue, both legally and from a planning framework. But we understand that it could be a little bit confusing. So, we'll do our best to explain it, better in the plan. But there's always going to be a little bit of confusion maybe about that, because it makes sense that why people would want it to be a sending district, considering you have a lot of farms. I think people might not understand why it's a receiving district, but that is what it is right now, and there was a reason for it. I think people might just not understand that.
I mean, the fundamental thing with TDR, just from a philosophical standpoint, it's a transfer of development right. It's not just a strict preservation. It's not an extinguishment. You are transferring development rights from one area, putting it in another. Like I went back and looked at the '04 comp plan. Rob Pike got up and said, he's like, that's the tough political sell with transfer of development rights. People have to understand that, in order to preserve land over here in the farm belt, that you may see a denser development elsewhere in someone's backyard, like the old schoolyard, the old rail yard, something like that. So it's not while it is a preservation tool, it transfers density. So there will be denser development elsewhere, preserving land elsewhere in the town. I mean, that's just at a fundamental level.
I know everybody knows this, but I always just feel the need to say it, that the farmers took such a beating with the 2 acre upzoning, and the TDRs were put into place to help them, and they failed miserably. And that's why anything we can do to increase sending and receiving areas and make this work better for the farmers, I totally favor.
I do as well.
Yeah.
I do too.
Can we just go back to 202 real quick? I'm sorry. About Edgar Avenue, the last sentence says that the village center district could be considered for this parcel. What is it now?
So the village center, I believe, is the deli down there on
Yes.
the south side. Right now, I believe it's RB40, Residence B40.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Which, so again, when you look at what's permitted in Village Center, it's small scale commercial. It's a recommendation whether or not the board wants to go and make those zoning changes. That's a future action.
Okay, several times throughout the plan, I just seem to find that it says could be, it's never defined as will be.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And that concerns me.
I think that's important though, because it doesn't tie the board down that you have to do that. Leaving it open-ended. If you study it and it doesn't make sense to change it, then don't do it.
Okay.
That's
All right.
I think, and also I think the intent of this kind of section in the plan is to talk about there are several areas where the existing uses don't necessarily align with the zoning. And we provided some examples. I think we received a little criticism because they were all happened to be in the general same area of town, I think closer to Jamesport. That was more of just a happenstance. But we just wanted to point out examples of where you have residential properties and industrial zones that could be cleaned up, historically commercial zones and residential zones, and other types of things where if they wanted to continue or expand their properties or uses in ways that the community might want, they wouldn't be permitted to do so under the existing zoning. So they're just examples. There are probably many other examples. These are, again, illustrative.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
maybe in the language we can say that, because it says the following areas have been identified for special consideration. Maybe we can just identify that these are, a few samples throughout the town, and, dozens, if not, probably more, exist, but these are just the examples we're looking at.
Because, right now, if they wanted to expand, they're non-conforming, so they would need a special permit.
Everything has to go back to the town board.
But there is a mechanism for them to
Correct.
expand right now.
Like the reality, I apologize.
No, go ahead, because I do want to address.
Well, so I just like those existing commercial uses down at the south end of Edgar Avenue. The reality, no one's going to buy a commercial property, knock down a commercial building, and build a single family. That just doesn't really make sense from an economic
Yeah, but I want to ensure, because one of the problems that I have, we seem to locate everything, like, for example, all the shopping on 58.
Yeah.
So we cause a heart attack in traffic there, that we spread commercial out, and that's
But we also don't want to create urban sprawl either.
well, what does that have to do with the commercial? in
If
this
you
plan?
expand the commercial outside of the commercial corridor, the whole purpose of sort of concentrating it into one area is to prevent urban
On an
sprawl.
industrial, I agree with you on an industrial sense where you make, but in this case here, like this on Edgar, there's an auto body, and there's a
Marine.
marine. That is perfect. It's in the perfect location. It's next to the water, right? So I would just leave it the way it is. I don't know why it got changed to residential back in the 2003 comp plan, which no.
I don't know if it was changed to residential or I think it just is.
It is.
Oh, it's always
Yeah,
been?
It's always been.
Okay,
always
sorry about
been.
that. I was told differently. Okay, sorry about that. Apologize.
Yeah, the original owner of the deli actually lived like right behind it.
Oh, that makes sense.
And this is an issue,
Right?
every town has properties like this. When
Okay.
zoning is done, it's
Ignore me.
done for
Thank
large
you.
swaths of area, and it's not always parcel specific. And certain parcels, kind of, it just needs to be cleaned up from time to time. And so we're just acknowledging that and pointing out a few properties that could be considered, and there are probably several others as well.
So I just want to reiterate, you just said that these are protected.
Yes, they
Okay.
legally exist as pre-existing non-conforming uses now,
Perfect.
so they can maintain that.
Perfect.
So if somebody was to sell their piece, it can, and somebody
They
else.
have to continue the same use.
same
Commercial.
They can continue. So a pre-existing non-conforming use can continue on that same lot,
What's in it?
held in single and separate ownership. That's defined in our code. There is a mechanism in our code to allow the zoning board of appeals to go from one pre-existing non-conforming use to another pre-existing non-conforming use. One example of that recently would be the old Luxfer Magtech building at the corner of Elton Street and East Main Street.
Yes.
That was an old manufacturing building. They converted a portion of that to, I believe it's Sid Harvey. They're an HVAC wholesaler.
Yeah.
The zoning board looks at specific criteria. Will the new use be detrimental in terms of, neighboring residences, impacts? So there is a mechanism to go from one pre-existing non-conforming use to another non-conforming use in that zoning district. So it does get, the town retains a bit of control over what can go there, what can't go there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so 203, I think we touched on, that's the TDR zoning districts. 206. So a lot of comments here. So number one is referring to CRC zoning districts. So an acknowledgement that Suffolk County Department of Health Service requirements will still apply. So those are your allowable sanitary densities, and the likelihood that you're not going to get significant density without infrastructure, whether it's connection to public sewer or an on-site sewage treatment plant.
Okay, so one of the comments, one of the things in CRC is that we're requiring the use, and I gotta find a development rights, right? If you want to do.
That was one of the things we looked at, to increase the density for that.
Right, but but in no other zone, you can, I have to get my notes, you have to do that. And that was a concern. So,
Well, I mean, but that's not, I mean, that's not true. You can use
TDRs in
TDRs to
residential
increase residential density
Yeah.
in, I believe, RA 40 and RA 80. So
That's correct.
there is a residential TDR component to increase densities. CRC would just result in a more dense development than a 1 acre or 2 acre zoning district.
all right, well, I'll go over that another time, all right. I don't want to clear on that.
PRC zoning district, comment number 3. Again, this is, you know, in the PRC, that's West Main Street. Provisions of TDRs, again, would be restricted unless they have the sewer infrastructure in place. Comment.
How does the board feel about that?
This was kind of part of the BOA study years back where they talked about giving more density on the north side of West Main Street to save the south side closer to the river. So it kind of makes sense to me still.
We can work more of that language from the BOA study in there too.
I mean, that's the side you want to live on, right, on the riverside.
Comment number 2 was again for ag tourism resorts. I believe the board wants to keep the ag tourism language in there. Comment about removing the cap on the use of TDR for residential. Cap may inhibit the intent and suggested TDR programs. The town should consider changing or eliminating the cap as the threshold is approached. So again, for TDR.
Change it to yearly review or something, right?
I would say annual review of the cap and maybe the TDR program itself, just specifically for this chapter.
There's nothing on 207, 208.
Yeah, we already sort of went through ADUs. I think we're at a consensus where that is concerned.
209, I think is the last one, right?
Yep.
Can I just ask a question of, like, one of the things I have talked to you guys about in planning, and I don't want to change the code, but can we in any way reference that the town may opt to consider in its future developments, incentive? So we've come and we've talked about incentive zoning, and I don't have the specific spot or location in that, but I know that Governor Pataki wrote the program many years ago for the state. I think it's, you know, when a project comes along or something doesn't fit in the parameters of the zoning and something, but somehow, way or another, that it's entirely beneficial through community benefit funding or other types of funding investments, you know, I would like to see some type of reference without
Yeah.
drastically changing it, and just simply saying that the
I
town
think that's
should
an
be
easy thing to
considering.
add.
And incentive zoning is already established
already
under
town
town law. I think it's section 261, I believe. I mean, it's already a tool in the municipality's toolbox. I've looked at some other towns. They have implemented incentive zoning, and incentive zoning is basically, you know, your town board would authorize density bonuses in allowing density bonuses in return for community benefits, whether it was open space preservation or some other prescribed community benefit.
Or somebody, the zoning project doesn't fit, but if somebody comes in and it's for the if they can prove that it provides benefits for the overall community, the town makes exceptions to allow something to take place.
Yeah, I think I think we can add that in somewhere in future land use in terms of just referencing.
Yeah,
it as
yeah.
a tool.
I think we can add it to a recommendation. I think it was something that we had discussed briefly about the agritourism resort, and I actually have some text where I said, you know, as an alternative to the use of TDR, the town can consider other zoning tools such as incentive zoning, which could be used to leverage development to provide community benefits within the area. With this type of zoning tool, there should be a clear rationale between the development's impacts and the provided benefits. And that's all kind of provided an incentive zoning. It can't be used for, money to go into general coffers or something like that. There needs to be a nexus between what you're asking and what you're providing for that area. But we can add that.
I just say, I like to reference it, it sends a message to me when somebody's reviewing the comp plan and there's something like, there's potential here, so if it's for the overall good of the community.
Does the board have anything else? or
Yes,
wanna discuss
just
any
one
other
quick thing, the
comments?
definitions of warehouses.
We have that's in future land use to update our definitions and our use table.
Right.
As a recommendation.
I just wanted to make sure we discuss that, and we're all on board with that, because that's a
That's-
must be done.
Yeah, that's a must be done. I think there's a lot of uses within the town that we do not explicitly define. That's one major thing that we definitely want to do when we're amending our codes to.
Good,
General code cleanup.
yes, yeah.
I have one more thing on West Main Street.
Yes.
And I've asked for this, and I don't say this begrudgingly, but a while back. And that's the west side of Main Street, up against the,
On the riverside?
no, up against the railroad track.
Okay.
Right now, what I'd like to see there is for that to be light industrial, because it's light industrial there already. It's spot.
It's
Spot.
industrial C.
It's-
Are we
it's
talking in the vicinity of the gas station and the Dodge dealership down there on West Main Street? So
Yeah,
that-
but a little bit further west than that, but all the way to Blackman's, to me, should all be, that's industrial C?
No, that's.
No, there's
that's just PRC.
the Dodge dealership, that vicinity out there, that's industrial C, but after that, it moves to PRC. I mean, I don't know that the
also
board
within-
necessarily, if we're talking about having that area be more like residential, middle housing, do you really want industrial development?
There's already industrial there. If you look, when you look at that, there's a house, then there's industrial.
Yeah, but that
a little
industrial is
house.
pre-existing, non-conforming.
We're also up against the allowable uses in
Yeah,
the
and
WSRR.
DEC, part, was it 666, the
666.
table? And I think is it recreation designation there? Or is it, I think it's
That's-
recreation.
I think, so I believe that was actually, I think I just looked into this with Anne Marie, a lot of that section, the Blackman, was made to be a WSRR community designation.
And it got-
That was something that the town actually basically,
Had to leverage the DC.
there's an allowance in the Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers Code, so the town basically had to go to the DEC to designate that as a community designation,
was gonna be
to
more
allow,
restrictive,
to allow the construction of a new Blackman plumbing supply warehouse.
This just tripped something in my mind. County Legislator Stark met with me and asked, the county owns the old Jeski fish store on West Main Street on the south side. And they're looking to have that demolished, and they're wondering about the town's ability to be able to do same. So I said I would discuss it with the board, and just brought it up because when we were talking about that area. So it's just something to think about. We'll have to have further discussions on it.
That's on the west side of,
It's on the south side of West Main Street. It's boarded up now.
Boarded up
Oh,
like
It's
that.
yeah,
really in
okay.
bad shape, and it's just
Been
basically
boarded up for 25
crumbling
years.
back into the river, and it needs to come down.
Here's my concern about what you're speaking about, Bob, with allowing more industrial on West Main Street there. The goal that I see down the road in the future is for the riverfront to have nice homes, some restaurants, kind of to further out to connect to Tanger, where it's a
It should be
nice.
a transitional zone.
Yeah, it's like
From
this, that's
downtown,
like the
yeah.
entryway
Correct.
into our downtown. And I think that having an abundance of industrial properties all lined up on one side of the street, that it would ruin it for the other side of the street. So I don't mind it being spaced out, but to make that whole area
I
industrial.
will say the parts that are currently industrial C are gonna be changed to light industrial.
that's
But-
where I'm going,
But
not,
the areas that are PRC are going to remain PRC.
Yeah.
And, whether or not the industrial businesses there are, legal or not, that's another question. But the goal is to maintain the PRC zoning. We have a lot of good uses, I think, in there. There are some that need to be tweaked a little bit, some
I
definitions
mean,
that
the
need to be
PRC
tweaked,
in
but-
general, it allows wholesale business,
Yeah,
which in our
restaurants,
code is essentially anything that's not detrimental to the environment. It's a very,
yeah, I'm
very
not talking
permissive
about any
section.
kind of like big manufacturing, there's an auto body on that side. right? There's already industrial built. I'm talking about light industrial because it exists, right? And there are homes over there too. But I don't know how many people want to build another home on the railroad tracks. You know, that's, so I'm just looking at light industrial. And I'm not talking about heavy manufacturing. There's no space to do
Yeah,
heavy
but PRC also
manufacturing.
allows retail, it allows restaurants. It's not, I don't think PRC, there's actually a residential component in there, which is something that we're trying to explore through the comp plan, because the purpose and intent include, you know, it wants to include an array of commercial and residential uses, yet we don't allow residential uses there. But we do, there are quite a number of permitted uses under PRC.
This is the one where they were speaking about the townhouse option possibly in the PRC.
Well, folks, we're to be comfortable right now?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
What a great job you guys have done.
What will be the process, if you don't mind me asking, so you guys will make the updated version, you'll submit it to us to kind of, again, take a glance at it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, is it gonna just be a red line version so they can easily identify?
So what I was thinking is we would give you the document, like a clean version of the PDF, and then maybe a Word document that has the kind of strikeout changes, so it's a little bit clearer, because it'll be tough to format it properly with the red line in the PDF, but we'll make it clear what was changed, and we'll highlight everything so you can see it in our next pass.
No, I want to thank you and BFJ, because this task for us to do today required obviously tons and tons of reading and note-taking and everything else that we all put in. Denise used up every sticky note that we have in the town of Riverhead on hers. But the process in which you did this and how you supplied it and put it all together and presented it to us really helped us tremendously, and I think the public will be thankful too at the end of the day. So we appreciate it, and thank you for how you did this for us.
Yes,
I
I would just like to
appreciate
say,
that.
I loved the charts and graphs. I thought they were very easy to follow and read. It's a tremendous tool for everyone in the town to look at and see how the town has developed. It's terrific.
But I will
No,
say
thank
this,
you.
I don't want
Yeah.
to see you again for another 15 years after this.
Well, if you need us again, we're around. You know,
Thank you, Noah.
yeah, thank you, and thank you to the planning staff again for, we met with them, or we're continuing to meet with them every week, for as much time as needed, and without the kind of constant back and forth, it's tough to do these big projects, and so it really has been a lot of work on their part as well as ours, and so we're thankful to have good teammates. And a partnership with the town.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, moving on, we have
Thank you guys very much.
No, where are you going?
matters surrounding special permit for 374 Main Road, Aquebogue. And Greg,
Copies of
we're going to put our claws into you and keep you up here with us.
yeah, no, I like it.
If Kim Judd, come on up.
Let's keep
If
going.
I leave, I'm probably not coming back, so no, you better keep me here.
Hi, Kimberly Judd, the applicant, and Ryan Winter from VHB, the traffic consultant.
How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? Hey, Justin, can we get the eye in the sky, please? If we could zoom in on this. All right, good. Look, can we get out a little bit? Out a little more. Thank you.
I love this.
Yeah.
I do too.
All right. So this is an update on a special permit application that has been before the board a couple of times. There's a few new members on the board that may not have seen this before. This is a proposed special permit application to construct a professional office at 374 Main Road, which is on the northeast corner of Main Road and Union Avenue. Subject property is about 3.5 acres. They're proposing a 15,000 square foot, one-story professional office. and related parking, drainage improvements. This application has been before the board, both the town board and the planning board, for work sessions and discussions before. There were previous versions, there's been previous design professionals and previous project expediters working on this.
Was it not originally a two-story proposal?
It's that, so
Way
yes,
back in the day?
it's gone through a couple of iterations. One was a two-story proposal that was shut
And we did
down.
not like that.
There was a question, so there is a design, like a supplementary guideline in the town code, which states that for properties more than 3 acres, the development shall be in a campus-style development.
Right.
One of the prior design professionals and expediters had come in, and we asked both the town board and the planning board, I think this was back in August of 2020. They offered 2 designs. One was a single-story building, very similar to what you've seen here. The other was a multiple campus-style development. At that time, both the town board and the planning board preferred the 1-story single building. The thought being it keeps the development further away from the residences to the north of the development. So that's why, the applicant at that time, board directed them to sort of go forward with the 1-story single building located closer to Main Road. So the zoning is rural corridor, RLC zoning use district, where professional office is permitted by special permit from the town board. We did classify the action as a type 1 action pursuant to SECRA back in February of 2022. We did have the applicant prepare a traffic impact statement in order to analyze the cumulative impacts. Now, there are separate applications there's 2 vacant parcels on the northwest corner of Main Road and Union. We had the applicant prepare a traffic impact study that looked at the cumulative traffic impacts from both of those developments at that Main Road and Union Avenue intersection. They did prepare that traffic study dated February 2023.
Want to talk about it? Ryan Winter, you can talk about
Sure.
the traffic study.
Yeah.
Sure. So the traffic study, as Greg mentioned, encompassed not only 374, but 2 other properties to be developed on the west side of Union, all with access directly onto Union, nothing on Main Road. So our traffic study considered the new intersection for the driveways, Main Road at Union, and also CR 105 at Union on the north end to see what if any mitigation would be required. So as a basis of that study, it was determined that there were minimal traffic impacts, but there was consideration for a traffic signal at this location to ease some of the additional traffic that would be using that intersection, especially coming off Union onto Main.
Yes.
Obviously, traffic is fairly heavy on Main, and the gaps in
We'll
being
sit
able
there
to
for a
turn
while
on and
waiting
off is
for a left, and I
challenging.
see a
Yes.
left-hand turn lane on 25 too going into this.
Right.
Was recommended.
Yep.
Good.
So when we look at impacts for a project, the goal of planning and development is not to make sure there's never another car on the road. It's to mitigate the impacts from those measures. So, based on the signalization, and the DOT did approve that signal at that intersection, and
The design has been approved, and basically just the permit is ready to be pulled for that, but we have not.
We have to
pulled it yet.
finish.
We wanted to get
the
through
site
this
plan,
process.
yeah, you get through the
special
special
permit,
permit and the site plan
process.
before you.
You want approval first before you build the traffic light.
Yes.
So I do note, so this is just one application, and I do want to just bring this up to the board so that you can see what we're talking about. So a few weeks ago, Matt Charters came before the board with a proposed amendment to the town code relating to the use of pervious pavers on a site. So this application right now, it's the proposed impervious surface coverage is about 23.9%. The maximum permitted in RLC is 25%. So right now, the application does not need a variance, but they are proposing, so on this plan here, in this bubbled area, essentially the entire supply of parking, with the exception of the drive aisles and the handicap stalls and accessible aisles, are all being provided by pervious pavers. Again, so it does not need a variance of the code, but if the town board moved forward with that amendment, and this was considered, if we considered these pervious pavers to be counting towards lot coverage,
Then we would need
it
a
would
variance,
probably be about 40%. Now, the RLC, the 25% is a very low restriction. I do note that this application is not looking to exceed their building lot coverage. They're not exceeding the allowable floor area. But the use of pervious pavers in this application does really, it's being used to permit the construction of a much larger building than would be allowable if they were using the impervious calculation. Probably if you had to comply with the zoning code at the 25%, you'd probably end up with like a 6,000 square foot building, which would reduce both the size of the building, the amount of required parking. I did note, though, that when you look at the northwest corner, those two existing office buildings on the northwest corner, I did a rough calculation just looking at GIS. These lots are both at about 40% impervious, surface coverage between their parking and their buildings. So the 25% is just not, it's not in keeping with that existing level of development on that northwest side. So I just wanted to bring it up for the board. It's when we talk about a code revision, it's tough to consider it until you actually see the results of what could be developed.
That was, as you recall, I appeared at that and I spoke, and I understand the intent of the projects that are above their lot coverage, above their FAR, using impervious surface calculation when you're already going to the zoning board for FAR and building lot coverage. I just didn't want a project that did conform to building lot coverage and FAR to be captured in the new code amendment. What do you, and the one thing I did suggest when I was up at the podium was perhaps maybe that's something, if you do pass that code amendment, you say that if you don't meet your building lot coverage and your FAR, you can't use impervious pavers to bring down your impervious surface calculation. So that's up to the board to decide. I don't know if we're gonna get through public hearing before both boards before you enact that. Because once you enact that, then I have to go to the zoning board for a public hearing on impervious surface calculation. So it's a timing issue. But what about land banking? I mean, if you look, we have 100 spaces that we're providing, and the code requires 100 spaces. I don't think we're gonna need 100 spaces. I do represent a lot of other medical uses, and they're just not using all those parking spaces. What do you think about land banking to take out an aisle maybe?
Well, so land banking just requires, the reviewing board, they still would have to provide them if they needed to be built out.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily change, like,
But it could still say grass.
if you wanted to land bank this area, it could potentially still be built out. So the main point with that impervious versus pervious code revision is when you're driving past a site, whether it's pervious pavers or asphalt, it doesn't really change the amount of development on the site. It's still hardscape, it is still development, and again, if, in a case like this, 25% is low. So, when I looked at, I'm somewhat on the fence of, trying to figure out how to address it, but, when you have existing development that's at about 40%, this is exactly where that would be right about at that 40%. So the board may consider amending the allowable impervious coverage in RLC to be more consistent with existing development, because 25% is low when you do have, again, it's just the nature of the use, because medical office and professional office requires one parking stall per 150 feet. It's an intense parking requirement.
Is there a way to make a change to that? I don't like that we recommend all of these extra parking spaces that are not necessary, and we end up with asphalt all over the place, or pavers or whatever's going in there.
So medical office is tricky. Again, I believe, I have to find out, I want to find out where the recommendation for the 1 per 150 come from. I would imagine it probably comes from like ITE, like
Yes.
traffic engineer recommended guidelines.
Would you say that's where it comes from?
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's in line, I believe, with what IT's recommendations are. And that's a national average and recommendation for stalls per square footage or whatever unit you want to use to establish that off of.
So medical office, I mean, again, it's based on averages, it's based on a certain standard. There are busier medical offices and there are offices that are not as busy. For example, forgot the intersection, there's a medical office it's on the corner of Roanoke and one of the side streets. It was like an old single practitioner. It recently went over to another medical a medical provider. Didn't change the size of the building, but the practice is now much busier. So now people are parking on the street to go to that use. So I'm not necessarily, it's kind of a tough situation to go and just change the code for medical when there might be medical practices and offices that need that parking. There might be some that don't. I think it's really sort of that average of, you don't want to underpark a site. You don't want to develop a building and then get yourself into an issue where you don't have the parking for those patients.
Well, we would be willing to land bank spaces in order to keep it green instead of paving it.
I mean, they could do that. I mean, if they were to land bank this section here, I mean, it would keep it along the frontage with Main
Yeah,
Road.
this is for handicap though, so that's the only problem is that you gotta keep, I think you have to keep these here. I think maybe perhaps land banking this here, and there are projects that you've worked on over the years that we've worked on where the board land back spaces and you have to do a covenant restriction that if the town board or the planning board finds that the need for parking is there, you can trigger it, and then the property owner has to build it out.
They would, so the code requires that the applicant provide a minimum of 2/3 of the required parking. So if we were to explore land banking, they would need to provide 66 parking stalls. I mean, that's something that the town board, in considering the special permit, and the planning board can consider. I would have no objection to land banking. And again, if they find out whether it's, the provider there finds they need more parking or the board finds that there's a problem, they can build that out.
How many doctor's offices do they anticipate building out?
They don't even have a tenant or anybody in mind, just because we've been in this process for, we're like the third design team on board here. So it was started by other design professionals, other representation, but no, there aren't any tenants that are.
So there are 5 suites being proposed. Justin, can we just zoom out a little bit on this plan? So there's 5 tenant suites being proposed, the largest being 5,600, and then the other guys being about 2,000 square feet. I mean, again, this doesn't, whether these walls are broken down, whether it's 3 tenants, 4 tenants, it doesn't change. You're not adding to the size of the building. You're just changing the,
I'm just thinking, if you cut it down to 66 spaces, and you've got 5 different tenants there, you're talking between employees and patients, little more than 10 spaces per office. If you have 3 or 4 employees in each office, doesn't leave a lot of parking for patients to come in.
I mean, I'm not saying they have to go that's the minimum number.
Yeah.
I mean, they could remove that bank that had 13. So I mean, they could provide 85. If they got down to 85 or whatever that number is. I was just referencing what the code says in terms of the minimum that has to be provided for land banking.
You have a voice from the peanut gallery. Sorry, Greg. So to Joanne's point, we could consider an amendment. I'm not going to say we're going to do it, but what other towns do, especially with a high demand like this, we consider maybe a higher per square footage amount, but have a dedicated employee count, like a certain number of spaces per employee, and then square footage base as well. So you kind of capture both angles. I know it's tough if you don't have, an end user there, but it could make it closer to a real number. So,
I'm just concerned because it's
Yeah.
not, a dense commercial area.
Yep. But I think it's worthy of a discussion, maybe a code revision to look at our requirements. I know we kind of talk about it on and off, but I'll work on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hear the same complaints with the shopping centers up on 58.
Yeah.
But a lot of those centers also, which people don't keep in mind, is that there's availability for a pad site to go in there.
Correct.
So that parking could possibly be needed at some point in time.
All right, so in terms of building aesthetics, we did provide elevations. RLC does have requirements for types of building materials, aesthetics. This application proposes like cedar rain screens, cedar tongue and groove natural siding, ephes along the northern end. So the southern elevation of the building will have the cedar siding, the 5.5-inch tongue and groove, so it'll have, you know, more of a rural character.
Right.
So they do comply with the aesthetic guidelines for the RLC zoning district.
One thing that I'm going to ask is when the planning board, planning department gets the renderings of what the building is going to look like and what materials they're going to use, I know a lot of times, sometimes it goes outside of what's actually listed that they're going to use. It's so important that the end product looks like what was presented in the beginning, and I don't know if there's an actual follow-up before our CO is issued, that they're looking at whether or not it looks like the planning board approved it to look like. You know, it kind of
So
seems
we
variations.
do follow up. There was actually the gas station out in Calverton, right before 25A branches off. They came in before the planning board several years ago for site, administrative site plan, and they were gonna propose, they had approved building elevations. When I went out to do my final inspection for that prior to the issuance of a CO, found that the elevations did not match what was approved, so they're resubmitting to.
Okay, good.
So we do follow up.
And don't you
They're
in your
resubmitting now.
resolution put
What's that?
down?
They're resubmitting this stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a, they.
They're
they could-
operating.
No, they're not. That gas station's dead. It's fenced, that site's fenced off, they're not, I don't believe they're
You're
operating.
talking about the one on the corner on the north side.
Right across the street from the planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're pumping gas yesterday. I drove by it. They're open.
That's news
What?
to me.
They're not supposed to be.
Well, they are.
All right, well, we'll follow up on that. I mean, that's news to me, but I last went out there probably,
Something in the water up in that area with people doing what they want to do.
But in your resolution though, and then when the board approves it, you put as elevations by,
yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
reference on any site plan resolution, we reference, you know, approving the
Yes.
site plan, dated such and such, we list the sheets, elevations, renderings, such, you know, those are recited in any approvals that are granted. So next step for this application, I can prepare a resolution for the board, recommend, assuming lead agency issuing a negative declaration as the traffic impacts will be mitigated by the installation of that signal. And recommending moving this forward to public hearing.
I
I'm
would
good.
support that.
I would support.
I like that they listened to us about the design of it and going from the 2-story to the 1-story and setting it up this way. I think it will blend in nicely down there with what's on the already Nephis Stipe where that building, I
Union
think
Square
that sits
Plaza,
in
yeah.
pretty good in there, and I like this. I think it'll be fun.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks.
so I'll draft the resolution, and if the board's okay, I'll add that to the packet for the meeting next week, and we'll get a date and go forward.
People will live.
I'm sorry.
Just write us a thing. I don't have much.
It's almost impossible to fold them back up the way they
No,
originally
I'm gonna
came.
have to take it out over there and do it. Thank you.
It'll be 2 weeks, so I don't think that's on next week. Okay.
Because I
You
just
too.
have to leave it to.
Yep.
I-
No problem. Okay, we have on the open session for matters surrounding an update on boards and committees, but I think we're gonna postpone that until the next work session. We have board members that have other engagements not too far from now, and we still have a fair amount to do, so we're gonna postpone, Devin, the updates on the boards and committees.
No problem.
And we'll do that at our next
Sure.
available, work session, okay? So that brings us up to resolutions.
Can I just talk about process of the resolution. So, as we all know, last town board meeting, it was extremely confusing, with changes going from work session to board meetings. So I was hoping that when we put a resolution in like today, as they're entered in, can't we just immediately assign them numbers? And then even if a resolution is removed, if resolution number 10 is removed, it goes from 9 to 11, we can ask about 10, but just assigning them numbers and keeping them in skew makes it easy. I think it's better public perception to look at it and find out, like, if especially after, like today, when resolutions are continually added to the packet, the next meeting you can see, okay, we stopped at 15 and now we've added 16, 17, and 18, and we keep them in chronological order. And if we decide to pull one, it's okay, we'll just, okay, number 10's not being read for today, as an example. I'm just finding it like a little too confusing that things are just being added to packet, removed from the packet, and then, like, I just think if we can assign numbers, I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are, to keep things in sequence as they go in and as we change them.
That's
Any
a
thoughts?
question above my pay grade only
Yeah.
because I don't understand fully how Minitrack works, and I know there are a lot of issues with it right now, and there's another one today that we've got to deal with possibly, but
Yeah, so I think
will
the councilman
assign-
brings up a good point. I know it sometimes can be a little confusing. I think we would need to certainly consult with the folks in the town clerk's office because they are sort of quarterbacking the Minitrack process and the agenda. So I certainly wouldn't want to do anything to make life harder on their end, but certainly I understand the intent, which is to try to streamline the
totally
process a
agree
little
with
bit.
As
So-
anybody drops one in from any department, it's immediately assigned a number, and it stays with that number. And if it never comes to fruition, the number is simply not used, but it just keeps it in chronological order as things are added into the packet.
Well, I think part of the problem, the practical problem, is that there's two numbering systems. So the system that you see before you, these are numbered for today only. You'll notice from the
Well,
time
that's just that, but I'm talking about physically on the resolution. If this is resolution number 10, I'm using as an example, it always stays there. If you decide to pull it, well,
Right,
number
but
10 is not in the packet.
it's 10 today, but then, big picture-wise, they keep track of the resolutions numerically throughout the whole year. So you notice it's 2024 dash, 263.
But it's
So-
okay for me to say 2024-010 was never discussed, it was pulled from
Yeah,
the packet.
so I understand what you're
But-
saying in concept. I
But
think
it's there, and then if
we
you
can
come
certainly,
back to it, or you
as I say-
revisit it, a month later, you want to bring it back in, you just go back and you say, I'm revisiting number 10, but you keep them in sequence.
Yeah.
As any department adds a resolution, they're kept in sequence. I just think it's for public perception. Like last meeting, it was like, things are being
Well, I think
added
that was a
before
separate
some of the
issue.
resolutions, then others are being
That
added
was a separate
after
issue,
the
but-
resolution. The numbers are different in chronological order.
that was a one-time error that I think the town clerk has addressed since.
Yeah, so that was a separate issue, but as I say, big picture-wise, I understand where you're coming from with that, and we can certainly chat with the town clerk and the folks in the clerk's office about it, maybe a way we can try to do this differently, but I know, as I say, I know the numbering system that they give us today is different than the numbering system that'll be in place for sort of archival purposes going forward online, so that 10 years from now, you can pull up a resolution. It's from the calendar year, so it's 2024 dash. All right, so, but certainly we can look at it. We're always open to trying to streamline and make things better for everybody, so no problem there. All right, so if the board's ready, we'll jump into.
I just want a quick
Sure.
thing, just for transparency.
Yes.
I forgot my packet upstairs, so I have it on my phone. I'm not looking at text messages.
I do as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I do as
Let me
well.
see, Joanne.
There you go.
The odds on that horse are 10 to 1? Wow.
We have an extra packet here if anybody needs. All right, so, resolution number 1, Sewer District Capital Project number 82317, budget adjustment. Number 2, Water District Capital Project 82303, budget adjustment. Resolution number 3, Ambulance District Fund balance transfer. Number 4, approves the attendance of one police department employee to attend a seminar. Number 5, approves the attendance of one police department employee to attend the DCJS Public Safety Symposium. Number 6, appoints new seasonal beach employees to the Recreation Department. Number 7, appoints a seasonal recreation aide to the Recreation Department. Number 8, appoints a call-in recreation specialist to the Recreation Department.
That's not what mine says.
No.
Mine doesn't
Skip
say that
one.
either.
Mine
sorry.
says appoint seasonal staff.
Did I miss 8? I'm sorry.
Staff to Recreation Department.
Okay, so number 8, appoints seasonal staff to the Recreation Department.
Yes,
Number 9, appoints recreation specialist to the Recreation Department.
correct.
And number 10 does the same thing.
Yes.
Yes,
Appoints a recreation specialist to the Recreation Department. Number 11, appoints Brian Mills to service as chairman of the Board of Assessment Review. Number 12, ratifies the appointment of seasonal staff to the Recreation Department. Number 13, reappoints member to the Small Business Advisory Committee, Castronova. Number 14, reappoints members to the Small Business Advisory Committee. Number 15, accepts the resignation of an account clerk. Number 16, waives fee for use of showmobile for Townscape Summer Stage concerts at Town Square. Number 17, approves fireworks application for Jamesport Fire Department, July 20, 2024.
summer's here.
Number 18, approves fireworks application for Riverhead Bidma, July 5th, 2024. Number 19, approves special event Chapter 255 application for Halleckville Museum Farm Barn Raising Supper. Number 20, awards bid for food and meat products. Number 21, extends bid for disposal of town-generated construction and demolition material. Number 22, extends bid nunk-pro-tunk for lubricants. Number 23, extends bid for auto parts. Number 24, extends bid for disposal and recycling of municipal solid waste. Number 25, approves agreement between Tanner Riverhead and Winship Media LLC utilizing parking, police personnel, and police cars, 2024 Jazz in the Vines. Number 26, authorizes the town attorney to execute an agreement with Municipal Valuation Services, Inc. The board will recall this is the second piece of it. You guys previously approved the 23-24. This is for 24-25.
Correct.
Number 27, bond resolution of the town of Riverhead, New York, adopted July 2nd, 2024, appropriating $2,260,000. Just to clarify for the board, you recall we had adopted this at a special. We had 3 board members present for that. It came to our attention thereafter that we needed to have actually 4 of you present. So we're just going to essentially redo the same thing. Hopefully we'll have.
Do the 3 that were here have to come back, or just the
It
other
would be
3
great
that
if you
didn't
could,
show up?
for that. That would be great. Number 28, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 301 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning and Land Development, Section 240 thereof entitled Bed and Breakfast Facilities. Number 29, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to amend Chapter 257, peddling and soliciting. Number 30, authorize town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 251 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Noise, Public Nuisances, and Property Maintenance, Section 7 thereof entitled Variances. Number 31, adopts local law to amend Chapter 301, Zoning and Land Development, Part 2, Districts, Article, not too sure, Pine Barrens Overlay District. Number 32, ratify the amendment of fees for accelerated building department services. It's related to use permits. Number 33, order establishing lateral water main extension at 203-213 East Main Street, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-1-17 through 20, Riverhead, New York. Number 34, declares certain sewer district equipment obsolete, surplus property, and authorizes auction of obsolete surplus sewer district equipment. Number 35, approves fireworks application for the Rock Golf Club, July 5th, 2024. Number 36, provisionally appoints a code enforcement officer. Number 37, pays the bills. And then to the councilman's point, additional challenges with Minitrack and the system that we have in place, but that we're in the process of replacing. numbers 38, 39, and 40 are listed below. Minitrack just did something we had never seen before and grouped them separately, but the town clerk's office will remedy that by Tuesday. So we'll call those 38, 39, and 40, even though they're listed separately as 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, which is number 38, Riverhead Sewer District Capital Project 82226, budget adjustment. Number 39, budget transfer Veterans Memorial Park, parking lot capital project number 72306. And number 40, amends Town Board Resolution 2021-481. And I think Jeanette is here, Financial Administrator. She's just going to clarify those last couple of resolutions. Speak to them more succinctly.
Hello.
Hello.
These were 3 late resolutions. I apologize. The first one is just to transfer some excess funds in a sewer district project that Michael Reichel had mentioned is almost complete. So he will not be utilizing $41,500 from the Cranberry Street Sub-Collection System capital project. And those were transferred originally from the American Rescue Plan Act. So we are freeing up money for ARPA to apply to one of the following projects, which is the sanitary system. It's not supposed to be parking lot, so I have somebody amending this in time for the board meeting, but that project number is correct. It's supposed to be for the sanitary system, though, not the parking lot. And the 41.5 will go towards that, which was previously slotted for fund balance. And instead of fund balance for another resolution, which is the number 40 on the list, or the last resolution, the 41,500 that's now being utilized for ARPA for the sanitary system is now going to free up fund balance money for another older resolution, 2021-481, which was never recorded as a budget adjustment. So we are amending that resolution and using fund balance instead of ARPA monies for that, because those are design fees associated with an ongoing project, so I probably wouldn't qualify for ARPA, so we'll use fund balance for that one instead. So that's kind of the link between all 3 resolutions. Does anybody have any questions?
How's the new office?
It's nice, thank you. That was an easy question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeanette. Okay, this concludes our open session. In a moment, I'm going to ask to close it and move to go to executive session, where we will be discussing personnel items, matters surrounding a possible change in status of an employee, that's with me, matters surrounding disciplinary matter of an employee, that's with Howard and MARSHAK, and legal matters, legal advice on rules and procedures from Howard and PRUDENTI. So can I have a motion to close the open session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to accepted to close the open meeting, and we will go to executive session. Everybody have a great weekend. And, congratulations to any of our high school graduates. I think graduation is this weekend. So congratulations to all those who are graduating high school. I think we can all, well, maybe Bob can't, but most of us can remember back to when we graduated from high school. And best of luck to everybody. And whatever your future endeavor is, college or workforce, whatever it may be, the best of luck to you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Take care.